back from the dentist and now my face is numb. Israel is starving. Is still starving. There's more people recognize Israel's violence. You don't take any pills ever. You can take more pills for once in your convenience. Please God, it's fine. I already did. Trump, trade, terror, Israeli NGOs admit genocide and more. Get in now. Hi, Chad. There's blood in the water and the sharks will come. It's going to be all right. I'm a big boy. I think it's best to see the annoying nuisance people who will take advantage of this and will piss me off, and then I'll clap them. Does anyone have a good blast off meme? Positive guys are finally saying you shouldn't vote for politicians to take money from AIPAC. Yeah, I'm glad that people are coming to where we've been at for years and years, but especially in the past couple of years. No, second mic is not on. Why are you saying that? It's not. Take 30 minutes off. Okay. Double echo. Okay. Take an hour off. I'm not fucking around. All right. Do we have a blast off meme or not? Why is your hair wet? I just got out of the shower. Thank you, Chowder, for the blast off meme. Where's the Macy's playlist? Any guests today? No guests. It's gonna be just us. I hope you enjoy it. Here it is. Anyway, we obviously will be talking about the New York City shooter as well. I forgot to put that in the fucking title. Did you listen to the recent Chabo? No, I did not. I haven't had time. What the fuck's going on? What a great way to start the day. It's fine. It's just refresh. It's fine. It wasn't a big deal. It was like a blip. It just disconnected and then reconnected. What? Did it not? Did you guys just like lose complete connection? I don't understand. Just refresh if you don't see me. Dude, this is huge. What happened? What happened, dude? Nothing. It just fucking effed, okay? Anyway, let's get started.
We will begin with that shocking mass shooting here in New York City.
We're going to talk about the CTE dude. The dude who drove all the way from Las Vegas to New York City to shoot up the NFL headquarters and then killed a cop that was off duty, that was doing security, killed himself, and I think like shot a bunch of other, killed 2 other people.
Police say a gunman walked right into the lobby of an office building and opened fire. 4 people are dead, including an NYPD officer.
You can see the suspect here carrying a military-style rifle. Police say he had a history of mental health issues. Lilia Luciano is outside the building in Midtown Manhattan, which is just a few blocks away from our studio. Lilia, good morning.
Oh, it was the CEO, not the NFL. A Blackstone executive was killed. Yeah, but he was trying to... It's not BlackRock, it's Blackstone. And he wasn't trying to kill the Blackstone people. He was trying to go into the NFL. He was trying to go to the NFL part of the building, it seems, because from what we know, that's what it's in the same fucking building. So he went to the wrong floor. Blackstone is not BlackRock. And he wasn't trying to go to Blackstone anyway. It seems he was trying to go to the NFL building because he blamed the NFL for his CTE. Bro, he's just like, no, it's not gambling related. No, he's just fucking, it's crazy. He's just
Morning,
crazy.
what do we know?
Good morning, Adriana. As you said, he had a history of mental health issues and something that's raising questions. He also had a concealed east yesterday. We know the gunman entered this 44-story.
What the hell, bro? What the hell is going on today? Oh my God, bro. I'm gonna fucking kill myself. What the fuck? What the fuck is happening, bro? What is happening? Oh my God, I'm so mad. Oh my God! I'm so fucking annoyed. I'm so fucking annoyed. It's not IRL Toolkit. It's not. I'm not on IRL Toolkit. It's not just you. Other streamers have been having this too. Oh, fuck. I can't tell if it's like Twitch related or on my ISP side. Bro, this is literally a new computer, okay? It's a fucking new computer. It's a new computer. I'm using a totally different processor, a new computer. We literally collaborated with the fucking ISP to make sure that we don't have like issues. And now I feel like it's Twitch related, but I don't know. It's probably ISP related. I don't fucking know. It's just weird. It's a weird F. It's not like a normal F. Oh, it's happening again. Literally happening again. I just go down to 0. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but the bit rate goes down to 0 and then it kicks up to like 30K or something. But on the Twitch end, it seems the bit rate is fine. I don't know what it is. All right, let's just continue. Fuck, man. I feel like the whole world is against me. Oh my God.
Skyscraper yesterday. It's a prominent building. It houses several companies like Blackstone, one of the biggest investment firms in the world, and it is the headquarters of the NFL. And this morning we're learning that one of the people shot is an NFL employee. He is in stable condition in the hospital.
You're responding to an active shooter incident.
Law enforcement officers raced into this Midtown Manhattan office building Monday after a gunman opened fire. Outside, others began CPR in the street. Police say just before 6:30 p.m., the shooter, seen here in surveillance footage, brazenly walked into the skyscraper at 345 Park Avenue with an M4-style rifle and started shooting.
The building security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. He then shoots a woman who took cover behind a pillar and proceeds through the lobby, spraying it with gunfire.
The NYPD commissioner said the gunman made his way to the elevator bank, shooting a security guard.
The shooter then calls the elevator, which opens in the lobby. A female exits that elevator, and he allows her to walk past him unharmed.
Police say he then went to the 33rd floor, home to the real estate company Rudin Management, where he killed one person before he shot himself in the chest.
I heard all these loud bangs.
This man, who didn't want to show his face, escaped the building when he heard the gunshots.
I came out 5 minutes later. One of my coworkers came out, and he said he saw 2 people get shot.
Others stayed inside and barricaded themselves in offices.
We believe this to be a lone shooter.
Police have identified the gunman as 27-year-old Shane Tamura. They say he had a documented history of mental health issues. He lived in Las Vegas and drove across country through Colorado Saturday night, then Nebraska and Iowa on Sunday, before reaching New Jersey Monday, about 2 hours before the shooting. Inside his black BMW, police found a revolver, multiple rounds of ammunition, and medication. The motive is still under investigation.
We lost 4 souls.
The reason why he shot himself in the chest is because he wants his brain to be studied for CTE. It seems like he had a litany of mental health issues. He played football. He was a prospect. He never played in the NFL. He was working in Vegas. I looked into his background, and I guess he blames the NFL for it. Regardless, he didn't actually play in the NFL, but it seems like this was his this is what he was. It seems like that's what he was trying to target it. Like that's what he was trying to target was the NFL. He ended up going to another floor and shooting up a bunch of people in the process, and then killed himself.
To another senseless act of gun violence.
Yeah, he played high school. I think he played college too.
One of the 4 victims was 36-year-old NYPD officer Didarul Islam, an immigrant from Bangladesh. Islam joined the NYPD in 2021. He had 2 young sons, and his wife is pregnant with their 3rd child.
He was doing the job that we asked him to do. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice. He died as he lived, a hero.
Just as we're standing here, we're seeing the NYPD right behind us. They just lowered the flags in front of the building to half-staff. Officer Islam was one of 2 uniformed officers in the building when the shooting happened. The other victims who were killed include 2 females and 1 man.
Is it plausible that he shot himself in the chest with an assault rifle? Yes. And I suspect the reason why he did that is because he didn't want to shoot himself in the head, because if his main gripe is CTE. He left a note. And in the note, it was, I think he was talking about he left a note, and in the note he was talking about how he wanted people to study his brain. It's common for people with CTE. Also, this happened. 2 in custody after active shooter situation in Midtown. Police are responding to an active shooter situation in Midtown, and they made it seem like it was some Muslim dude or some dude wearing like a Palestine jersey or something. The man grabbed falsely ID by someone claiming he was trying to bomb the building. Casual Islamophobia is a widely beloved activist. He brings watermelon to protest and carries it the whole march, then breaks it up and feeds people. Yeah, they just instantly went in and were like, oh, let's blame them. Let's blame some random brown guy. Classic. A woman falsely identified a man wearing a Palestine shirt as the shooter in this video. He was detained but completely uninvolved in the incident. Imagine you survive like a massive shooting. Like, you survive a shooting and then some random lady, some random racist is like, yo, he did it. And then now half of the fucking media, also really excited to point the finger of blame at like Muslims and the Free Palestine movement or whatever, is now using your image to be like, yo, this guy did it.
Back up, man. Back up. Back up. Go back up. You're either one side. Go inside. Let's go, guys. Don't go outside.
To be honest, I have no idea how we're gonna.
What happened? What do you guys get up? Did you see what happened? It was loud. It was right there.
Where to go? This side? Yeah, this side. No, yeah, that side. Does anybody shot?
There is so many. Like, we were listening.
Yeah, those are finance interns, chat. So, a woman falsely identified a man wearing a Palestine shirt as the shooter in this video. He was detained but completely uninvolved in the incident. This is the actual shooter. Yeah, that's the situation.
We're joined now by CBS News law enforcement contributor Richard Esposito. He's a former deputy commissioner of the NYPD. Good morning, sir. Good to see you. So there's a lot of reporting out there. What have you learned about the suspect? What have you learned about his motives?
So the suspect appears to have played high school football. He appears to have had grievances based on papers found on him that point to the NFL. Authorities in Las Vegas have not yet, as of last night, entered his home to see if there's more information about him. He says he had a brain injury, or he blames that on his mental health condition. And that's what we know. We're still developing that information.
Okay, the letters CTE are coming up. Is that what you're mentioning with the brain injury?
Yes. That is what I mentioned. That's a long-term brain. You would know better than I.
Of course, I'm familiar with
Yeah.
it. What are the next steps in this investigation?
First, they will continue to explore his motive. They'll continue to ask the questions that we all want to know. How did someone with a documented mental health history have a concealed carry permit for a gun? That wasn't the gun he used, apparently. He used an AR-15 knockoff, or, similar to an AR-15.
Yeah.
But why did he have that permit? He had been an unarmed security guard in Las Vegas, but his license had expired, according to authorities there. So they're going to continue to work on his motive, continue to work on how he had that kind of license, and continue to work on if there's substance to his grievance.
And so, Richard, there is so much that we still don't know, but there are things we do know from the video footage, from witness accounts. We know that he drove across country, right, from Las Vegas. We know that in his car there was a loaded revolver, ammunition, magazines, not any kind of explosive device. We know he took the elevator to the 33rd floor. What does all of that tell you?
Well, first of all, you have the question of how does he enter a building in Manhattan and manage to walk through security with a rifle in his hand. That's one of the questions you have to ask. You know what your security's like here. What was it like there? So people will look at that. He seemed to know where he was going, although it looks like he got off at the wrong floor. He got off at the floor for Rooted Management. They own and manage the building, and not the floor where the NFL has their offices. So we know those things about him. He seems to have prepared to some degree, and he seems to have made an error. What's in his car? I'm not familiar with all the contents of the car.
Well, we are... Go ahead, Vlad.
Yeah, no, Richard, so what is the big question that you have right now in the aftermath of this?
The question is always the one that's hard to answer. What prompts someone to go and kill people they don't know? People who are innocent. It's not like Luigi Mangione, but it is a grievance against an institution taken out on people. Why does someone do that? That's a mental health question.
Drives all the way across the country to commit that heinous act.
That's exactly right.
And doesn't hide like Luigi Mangione did. He did it, just walked straight in. Richard Esposito, thank you so much for your insights.
Luigi
New details on the
Mangione.
mass shooting in the heart of New York City that left 4 people dead, including an NYPD officer. The gunman was caught on surveillance.
What is that argument? Like he's braver than Luigi Mangione or something? Like what are they trying to say? I'm confused. This guy shot a bunch of random people. Luigi Mangione very specifically targeted one person. Allegedly, Luigi Mangione targeted one specific person.
Images
I don't
walking
understand.
into
The
an office
comparisons
tower,
are not
carrying, as you can see in that video, an M4 assault-style rifle. Police say he immediately opened fire inside the lobby and then moved to the elevator bank, went up to the 33rd floor, where he continued firing before ultimately taking his own life. This is the deadliest mass shooting in New York City in 25 years. Investigators have identified the gunman as 27-year-old Shane Tamora of Las Vegas. They've tracked his movements over the last few days as he drove from Nevada to Manhattan, parking just outside, double parking really just outside that building. Inside the building, the NFL's corporate offices, along with a number of other businesses. And a source does tell CNN the gunman had a suicide note in his pocket, which expressed some grievances with the NFL, also claiming to suffer from CTE and asking for his brain to be studied. Police, however, has stressed that at this point, any motive is still under investigation. As for the officer who was killed, he has...
I mean, you already know, man. You already know what the solution to this is. It's not like people say, oh, better mental health. Sure. But the people who say better mental health treatment don't want to actually fund it anyway. And not only that, but also it's like too many guns, too many guns, too many guns, too many guns, too many guns. What are we doing? Too many guns. That has not gone away. I mean, I was just talking with Cameron Kasky yesterday about this on stream while this was happening. Cameron Kasky is one of the Parkland kids, as you guys know. Like he spent most of his adult life advocating for gun control and getting yelled at for that reason. And we jokingly said, oh no, that's solved now. The problem is solved now. There's no more gun violence. There's no more mass shootings, but there is.
He's been identified as 36-year-old Didarul Islam, a 3.5-year veteran of the department. He leaves behind a pregnant wife and 2 sons. Overnight, officials lining the streets outside a Manhattan hospital as his body was transferred. New York City's Mayor Eric Adams has ordered all flags on city buildings be flown at half-staff in tribute to the slain officer. Here's what he had to say last night.
He was saving lives. He was protecting New Yorkers. He's an immigrant from Bangladesh, and he loved this city. And everyone we spoke with stated he was a person of faith.
CNN's Omar Jimenez is at the shooting scene for us this morning. Omar, what did we learn overnight?
Yeah, so we learned a few details overnight, but I want to start with what I'm seeing this morning, because obviously we're heading into a new rush hour, the first morning since this happened during evening rush hour last night. And as you mentioned, flags at half-staff. We are seeing that outside the building here. We also walked up to the entrance, or got as close to it as we could. Police are out front, barricades, as you can imagine, guarding the entrance and sort of the block perimeter around it. But you can actually see the glass cracked, sort of the introductory glass panes, window panes as you walk in.
I don't know why CNN always does this. It's just like a CNN audio glitch. No one else, just CNN.
Cracked with what appear to be impact points on one of the window panes, but also on the lower portion of a revolving door as well. Remnants of what happened here in what unfolded in just a few minutes as this gunman walked in, started opening fire on the lobby, killing 3 people in the lobby, including a New York police officer before heading up to the 33rd floor and killing a fourth person. That police officer killed 36-year-old Didarul Islam, an immigrant from Bangladesh, father of two, expecting a third. But we also just got in a statement that one of the other people killed was an employee for Blackstone. This building holds a number of different companies. Blackstone included the NFL as well. But this statement saying we
Are you touching the mic cable? It keeps making a loud noise. I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Even my own mods. No, dude, I'm not. No, it's the fucking CNN video that is making that loud noise. Every CNN video has this audio issue. Like every single one. Oh, God.
We are heartbroken to share that our colleague Wesley LePatner was among those who lost their lives. So we're continuing to learn more about the victims in this as well. And all of this as police are trying to push forward to some sort of motive to figure out what may have driven this person to do this. We're appearing to get a few clues. A source with knowledge of the investigation says that this person had a suicide note that talked about CTE, the traumatic brain injury that is typically brought on from playing high-impact sports like football. And this office does house the NFL, and we do understand from the NFL an employee was shot here. But that's just one piece of what is going to be a larger investigation, again, to zero in on a specific motive here. This shooter lived in Las Vegas prior to carrying this out, before driving across the country to this block where I'm standing and walking into that building and doing what they did. But bottom line, as security is beefed up at this building over the next weeks and potentially months, families will be mourning those lost in just a matter of minutes.
Absolutely. Omar, appreciate it. Thank you. John?
All right, with us now, John Miller, CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst. And John, you were doing real-time reporting on this throughout the evening, late into the night. I'm sure you didn't get much sleep, but what's the very latest you're learning now?
Well, we're learning bit by bit what his targeting was and how he ended up where he ended up. So as Omar told us, we see from that picture, he's walking up with an M4 rifle into the lobby, and then he opens fire. But he wants to get to the elevators. And this is one of those moments where he sees an elevator open, he walks into the elevator, a woman has heard the shots and sees the man with the rifle walking in. She walks off the elevator, which undoubtedly saved her life. He doesn't attempt to shoot her, but he takes the elevator to where it's going. It's one of those buildings like this one where you get in the elevator and the elevator's already programmed to your destination. He doesn't know what his destination is. His target, we believe, is the NFL. He has written this note about CTE. He's talked about how it's the NFL's fault. The NFL is on the 5th floor. We don't know this. He may have believed that that was the NFL building. Very much like so many of the floors are occupied by Blackstone. He may have thought, whatever floor I get out on, it may be the NFL. But the door opened, and he walked off into the 33rd floor, which is the headquarters of Rudin Management, the company that runs that building and so many other buildings in Manhattan, and shot apparently the first person he encountered, a woman who was a long-time and cherished employee of the Rudins. So that gives us a little bit of a window into a lot of the questions that were coming up yesterday, which was, what was his target? Why did he end up there? Was that his target, or was that happenstance? And some of those questions we'll never know because we obviously can't talk to him, but it's coming together.
A somewhat haphazard route from Las Vegas by car all the way, and we were on together last night when you reported the information about the car that they found. It's because he double parked on Park Avenue outside the building, which in and of itself is highly unusual and erratic. But to double park there and just walk casually across that plaza with the assault weapon,
it tells us a few things. It at least suggests a few things strongly.
What is this? Why do you want to disarm on the right, want to kill and imprison us? I actually want to know the logic. You went after me for calling you rich for getting free haircuts, but won't answer a limit question. Why disarmament fascists are running freely? Bro, you are the last type of dude who should have a gun, okay? Like, you are already mentally ill, clearly, that you're holding on for a fucking grievance like this, okay? You are the last type of person that should have a gun, okay? I feel like you are the exact type of dude who's eventually gonna either use that on me or someone else that pissed you off 8 years ago. It's not a grievance, it got your attention. Oh my God, brother. Let me tell you something, okay? Let me explain something to you. If you want a functional government, if you want a functioning government that cares about the welfare of all citizens, yes, reasonable, modest gun control is a necessity. We have too many guns in this fucking country. People act as though they need their guns to fucking fight against a fascist government. And it's like, the fascist government is here, okay? It's already here. What are you talking about? And most of the people that have guns will use it like this guy did. That's it. That's it, bro. That's it. That's it. That's it. There is some static with your mic, not an audio file. There's an issue with your mic. Take a week off, chatter.
Which is, he never stopped driving, once he, we have him crossing through New Jersey, by way of Nebraska, Colorado, driving straight across the country. He crosses New Jersey at 4:34. License plate readers have him entering New York shortly thereafter. He double parks that car. Now, you can double park on Park Avenue and get towed.
Brother, are you good? You sound exhausted. I'm not good. I had to get my dental implant taken out one day after being put in because it didn't stick to the bone. Okay, so now I have a massive fucking carved out hole in my mouth and it hurts like a motherfucker. So yeah, I'm not good. I'm really bad, as a matter of fact. I'm in a really bad fucking mood. They didn't do a bone graft. They did. It just didn't work. We're doing another bone graft now. Okay, I'm in an incredible amount of pain.
Away in 5 minutes. Yeah. But he knows, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back to this BMW. And I would suggest, based on the past cases we've seen, which are too many, that he wasn't coming back anywhere. I think the reason he did nothing to conceal that rifle was he knew, I'm walking in, I'm opening fire when I get there. I'm going to get as close to my target as I can, and I'm going to keep shooting. And when it's over, I'm going to take my own life, which is what he did.
Obviously, those are the questions being investigated right now. I expect we will learn more in the coming hours, largely because of your reporting on this. John Miller, thank you very much. Erica?
Joining me now is Chris Swecker, former FBI Assistant Director for the Criminal Investigative Division. Chris, good to have you with us this morning. Let's walk through what we know in this moment. There's been a lot of focus on the video that we have of the shooter as he walks into the building, and I'm going to play that if we can, because he's so calm, and I've also heard someone else describe it as almost purposeful. What do you see in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, he walked into probably the city with the most wired video network in our country, and proceeded to walk. I've been in that building. I served on a Blackstone-owned company after I retired from the FBI and went to board meetings there.
Is there another mini F? I didn't even see it. I didn't even notice it.
There's a big courtyard, and you see him walking through that courtyard. It's 6:30 or sometime after 6 o'clock. Not as much traffic, foot traffic, as you would normally see. And you can tell he's holding the M4 at his side, so he's making some effort to conceal the weapon. But it looks like to me, like, again, he is purposeful. He's going to engage anyone who tries to stop him from getting into that building. And of course, nobody did, because people don't walk around armed in New York City, and there's no police officer outside the building. So he gets inside and quickly ambushes the first threat that he sees, which is an off-duty NYPD police officer who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, it's hard to get your rational mind around this. This guy drives 30 some odd hours across country over the course of 2.5 days, jumps out of the car, gets right to it, and goes into a suicide mission. It's just really hard to fathom that.
Chris, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
At least 4 people are dead, including an NYPD officer, after a gunman opened fire inside a Manhattan office building yesterday.
Alexis McAdams joins us live now from the scene of New York City's deadliest shooting in 25 years. Alexis.
Yeah, it's just horrible to see everybody walking around here, Brian, going to their workplace, wondering, if there's going to be more safety and security here in Midtown today after we know a gunman pulled right up here in Park Avenue, got out of his BMW after he drove all the way here from Nevada, we're told, had an AR under his arm and walked into that office building behind me. He fired tons of bullets. I want to show you that it also shattered the lobby glass there. 4 people are dead this morning, including a woman who worked at Blackstone. They're saying that she was a huge member of their community. Her family is obviously grieving. It's just a sad situation. And then we know the NYPD officer was also shot. He was standing in the lobby there, and you can see there's lots of security out in front today. This is what we know about that officer. His name is
Didarul Islam. He's from Bangladesh, and he is an immigrant. I think he has 3 kids. Wife is pregnant with a 4th on the way, and now he's dead. He was off duty, and he was doing protection there.
Islam. He's 36 years old. He was working off-duty security at the building. This breaks your heart when you see his face and you think about what he went through and what his family went through when they got that call. Married, 2 little boys, his wife pregnant with a 3rd kid. Originally from Bangladesh, and the NYPD says he was a man of faith who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
He was doing the job that we asked him to do. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice. Shot in cold blood, wearing a uniform that stood for the promise that he made to this city.
Yeah, and he did everything he could to try to keep people safe in there, working off-duty security, thinking, it was probably a safer place.
Now how you react if it was a white cop? Brother, what are you talking about? There are plenty of instances where cops have actually fucking worked to stop a mass shooting. Like, it doesn't matter what the race of the cop is. Are you fucking stupid? This is, what do I always say? This is the one time where cops are supposed to be fucking violent. Like, this is the instance. This is the appropriate instance. This is the whole purpose. Why are you guys so stupid that you immediately like racialize this? White cop, black cop, brown cop, doesn't fucking matter. This is the point of police. I think a lot of people just ascribe whatever kind of value that they think I have here, and assume that like my assessment is like, oh no cops at all, at no point. Like, I think you just don't care.
Place and being on
probably because there's a lot of anti-police shadows. I don't give a shit, dude. What do you mean? There's a variety of there's Nazis in this chat. Does that mean my position is reflective of Nazis? No. God.
Streets of New York. This is the gunman, according to the police. That's 27-year-old Shane Tamira. Investigators say he drove here from Nevada. Inside of his car were some clues that he parked right in front of the building, including medication, ammunition, and another gun. Investigators say the meds were for his, quote, documented mental health history. There are also several high-profile tenants inside of this building: Blackstone, KPMG, and the NFL headquarters. And according to an internal memo that was obtained by Fox Digital, the NFL commissioner says one of their employees was shot and injured in the attack and is still in the hospital. Listen to this, though, because we've been talking about why did this happen, right? Well, according to Mayor Eric Adams, who just did an interview a short time ago, you guys, this guy played football in high school and had a note in his pocket when his body was found claiming he suffered from CTE. Adams says that he blamed, according to the note, this suspect, all of his struggles on football. The note also mentioned the NFL could be a motive, and that is still a question this morning. So back out here live, we're going to try to figure all of that out. But to know, that he left a note behind, that's new information that the mayor of New York City was just talking about, knowing that this guy armed with that AR knew exactly what he was doing when he came here at 6:30 on a Monday and went up to that specific floor before he took his own life.
Clearly, he didn't know exactly what he was doing,
Alexis.
considering that he didn't even go to the fucking right floor.
Parked his car, just kind of stopped it right in the middle of Park Avenue, left the door open. It was a BMW. He had driven cross country. Walks right in with this long weapon, and you can see in some of the pictures, if we zoomed out on this picture, which I saw on social media, you can just see people in the background, like walking into work. They didn't notice it. New Yorkers, we're all to ourselves, and we're so busy, and people are on their phones, and everyone's just walking on the street that no one saw this. So he walked right in.
And what about the fact he wasn't worried?
The conspiracy guys are in here. He got the Blackstone CEO. I think the note is fabricated. I don't think you guys understand. Companies like this have a shit ton of executives, okay? I think the NFL thing is fake. I ain't seen the note. Like, you have to think, what is the point? Like, what is the purpose? Why would he Why would he just not say he's trying to kill the Blackstone CEO if that's the case? Meanwhile, the fact that he shot himself in the chest to commit suicide instead of in the head to commit suicide, and a note that was left behind that pointed to CTE, considering that the building is also the NFL building, like all of those, you have to look at every single piece of evidence that is readily available before immediately rushing to the conspiracy. Yes, the profile of the victims is important. The profile of the victims is important. That's a major part of the evidence. That's a major piece. That's key evidence, right? To try to make an assessment on what the motives are. But a higher degree, like a piece of evidence as a higher value, is the profile of the shooter, and also on top of that, like some of the actions that he took, and if there is a note that was left behind or not. Do you understand?
About getting stopped.
Yeah, right.
In fact, just I mean, look how wide open that is.
I'm just surprised in New York City you see someone with a rifle. I mean, if you saw this in Texas, I mean, that's just every day.
And he somehow went to the 33rd floor rather than the 5th floor, just so happening to be the office of the building owner / real estate mogul in Blackstone. Yeah, I think the 33rd floor instead of the 5th floor where the NFL is because I suspect some of these buildings, you can go up to the building management office, which is where the 33rd floor is. It could also be that like someone actually pressed the 30, like those are pre-assigned. Like you have to be sent to a floor. If you've ever been in one of these buildings in New York City, I don't know the elevator, the type of elevators they have there, but some of them have elevators that take you up to a specific floor, unless you have the badge. Yes, the reporter said the destinations are predetermined when you get on. Exactly. So may have thought that he was going up to, the NFL floor, but he actually arrived at the 33rd floor. And then clearly he was just like interested in shooting as many people as possible regardless.
You see a guy walking in with a rifle in Texas?
Oh, 100%.
I worked in that building. You need a badge to swipe up on the elevator to get to most floors. That's why he ended up on the building management floor. It doesn't need a badge swipe. It's an open floor. Yeah. You know how when you go to your friend's apartment or something, your apartment complex, and they have pre-assigned parking spots? It's kind of like that. Like visitor parking spots for the management company. Many of those buildings, many of those commercial real estate buildings will also have the management company floor that you can go to freely without being badged in. It's kind of like that. We don't all have rich friends, sorry. I'm going to perish. I'm not even going to Brian kill me. I'm just going to perish because I had to respond to too many stupid chatters. The first instance of a death caused by responding to the dumbest person on the planet. What do you mean? Like what? Oh my God, I am so unrelatable because I said you sometimes visit friends that live in apartments. What an unrelatable story I just brought up. Yeah, what are friends? I do not have one. I have never visited a friend. Like, it's not like I said, you know, when you go to your multi-million-dollar friend, your billionaire friend's house that's in the fucking mountains, and you can only get there via helicopter. I said, like, when you visit your friend at a different apartment.
All the time.
But he could have had a gun. He has a handgun.
Well, you can have a handgun or a rifle in Texas, so it really doesn't matter. But to see that in New York City, where it's so harsh, that's one thing. But you talked to Chris Swecker earlier, Brian.
Yeah, so he used to, not only was he the assistant FBI director, but he used to have to guard Bank of America, and he'd have to design the defense of Bank of America. Here's what he said stands out to him.
This building was typical building security in New York City. Security desk, they got turnstiles. You check in at the desk, you get a badge. They probably take your picture. You go up to your floor unescorted. So it's okay security, but you know, as a security specialist, I was head of security at Bank of America after I retired from the FBI. I believe that security has to be visible. If you're gonna use security as a deterrent from this sort of thing, and protection for the people inside the building, There's no sense having security inside if you don't have it outside. This type of mental illness is the most dangerous kind because they can act with purpose and almost, rationality. They can plan. But yet, obviously there's some type of mental illness involved here.
He also talked about being visible, that he noticed that the incidents went down for crime when they had people outside, when it was visible that security was outside. But in most of these New York City office buildings, you have to walk in the lobby, then you have to check in. If you work there, you use your badge to swipe through. Then that takes you through the turnstile. And then to walk in any door, you need to have your badge.
It's difficult. So Mayor Adams is, in a new report, in a new interview, is saying that there was a note by the shooter that talks about CTE. I think a lot of people are making the connection with CTE and the NFL being office in this building as well. So I'm sure the FBI's BAU unit, behavior analysis unit, is trying to make some sort of connection there. Also, apparently, to Mayor Adams' point, he's a cop as well. He said that he went to the wrong elevator bank as well. So he didn't know exactly where he was going. So they're probably processing all that this morning.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
Yeah, they have to do door control type narratives because they can't say gun control. It's a big no-no. It's not allowed. So they got to point the finger of blame at anything they can. And it gets increasingly dumber and dumber until you arrive at the idea that it's all a conspiracy or a false flag to implement gun control or something.
Flags are flying at half-staff across New York as the city reels from its most deadly shooting attack in some 25 years. The security camera captures the gunman, 27-year-old Shane Tamura, as he walks toward a Park Avenue high-rise, carrying an M4 assault-style rifle by his side. Police say he opened fire in the lobby, got into an elevator, and then traveled to the 33rd floor where he opened fire again. Police say he killed 4 people and then killed himself. Witnesses describe the terror.
I heard all these loud bangs. No idea what it was. Turned around. I thought the ceiling was going to collapse or something. I turned around. All these people were running.
The building houses corporate offices of the NFL, and a source says the killer had a suicide note voicing grievances with the league. This is what New York's mayor said this morning.
From our preliminary investigation, he took the wrong elevator bank up to...
We're going to talk about different things? No, we're just going to talk about this. Sorry. Take a week off. We're going to talk about this for the rest of the week.
The NFL headquarters. Instead, it took him to Rudin Management, and that is where he carried out additional shootings and took the lives of additional employees.
Manhattan reeling after a lone gunman killed 4 people before fatally shooting himself in a Park Avenue skyscraper Monday night in Manhattan, marking New York City's deadliest mass shooting in some 25 years. And we just learned that the gunman worked the Horseshoe Las Vegas Hotel and Casino as a surveillance department employee. Joining us now is the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams. Mayor, thanks so much for joining us. I wish we were talking about something more pleasant than this. My deepest condolences are with the police department and your city right now. Have investigators shed any more light on what may have been the motive for this attack?
The investigation is continuing. We're sending 2 teams to Las Vegas, one to execute a search warrant and the other to look at the 2 firearms and guns that were recovered. The motives appeared to be connected to the shooter's belief that he was suffering from CTE and he was an ex-NFL player. Those items just don't pan out. He never played for the NFL. And so we're still unraveling this terrible shooting that took place in the city.
Yeah, he never played for the NFL, never played college football. He did play high school football. New York authorities, as you well know, Mayor, found prescription medication, a loaded revolver, and more ammunition in the suspect's car.
Yeah, Eric Adams has CTE, bro. I mean, what the fuck? Shooter said he played for the NFL? No, he didn't. And he didn't actually play for the NFL.
Which was double parked on Park Avenue right across from that building. Were there any indications he was planning additional violence elsewhere in New York besides the Park Avenue office building?
Not at this time. We had a large number of bullets that were found in the car, but at this time, the investigation has not concluded if he was going to take more actions.
What about the medication that police found in his car? Did that have anything to do with the suspect's mental health issues?
It's still under investigation. As you can imagine, this is still...
Bro, shooting yourself in the chest when you're committing suicide in a situation like this is actually yet another major indication that this is like somewhat CTE related, or regardless of his mental health issues, like he clearly thought he has CTE and wanted the medical examiner to study his brain. Okay, like that's it. He wanted to survive. No, he wanted his brain to be studied. Yeah, Junior Sal did the same thing. Like, there's other people that have actually committed suicide and have left a note specifically asking for their brain to be studied. If he shot himself in the head, he wouldn't be able to. He wouldn't have his brain. He wouldn't be able to get his brain studied. His CTE diagnosis only comes after death, as it stands currently. CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's just you get concussed too much, and then your brain actually turns, like, your brain size gets smaller and smaller. He played professionally. On May 2nd, 2012, Sal was found dead with a gunshot wound to the chest at his home in Oceanside. Authorities ruled his death a suicide. He left no suicide note, but did leave a piece of paper in the kitchen of his home with lyrics he scribbled his favorite country song, Who I Ain't. Sal deaths recalled a 2011 suicide of former NFL player Dave Duerson, who shot himself in the chest and left a suicide note requesting that his brain be studied for brain trauma. Encephalopathy. Encephalopathy. Sal had no prior reported history of concussion, but his ex-wife said he did sustain concussions during his career. He always bounced back and kept playing. Sal wasn't just a professional football player. He was a Hall of Famer. Yes. It's from repeated hits, not concussions. Wait, what? It's definitely from concussions. The hits cause concussions.
Relatively new. It's less than 24 hours. The shooting took place around 6:20 something last night. And so
you can be hit without getting concussed. Isn't it like repeated hits causing minor concussions? Yeah. Isn't that what it is? They're tiny repeated hits. It's not just concussions.
So there are many layers of the investigation that we have to peel back to sort of get a full understanding of what took place here and what motivated a shooting of this magnitude. And as you indicated, we lost a young officer who has 2 children and a child on the way. It was just a devastating impact what happened to Officer Islam.
And you don't have to get it in the NFL either. You can literally it can happen in high school. Like any amount of playing football can cause it. Or not even just football, just like contact sports in general. But football is the one that's like most, where it's most common.
The victims.
It's so heartbreaking indeed. I know it's still very early in the investigation, Mayor. Is there any indication, at least so far, that the suspect was on the radar of any illegal authorities?
No, not at all. And what's challenging, Wolf, is that we have done an amazing job here in removing illegal guns and weapons off our streets, but this came into our city. Many of the other jurisdictions have a more lax gun policies. It appears as though this individual had a permit to obtain firearms, and we really need to look at allowing our federal law enforcement officials to look into the database of those with severe mental health illness. Should they be allowed to carry firearms? This is a conversation that is going to be carried out on the federal level, but he was not on our radar.
I mean, this part is not even wrong. It's Eric Adams saying it, so it comes across as wrong no matter what, because he's the most wrong man in America, but he's not wrong. It's just like, even if you have a city where you have the proper gun control and have been able to greatly limit gun violence in your city as a consequence of proper gun control, you can't stop people bringing in firearms from other states, This is precisely the reason why Chicago has gun violence problems. The overwhelming majority, I think it's like 90% of guns that are 90% of guns that are caught, like that are used in crimes, gun violence related crimes in Chicago, come from neighboring states.
At all.
Will they be doing an autopsy, and will authorities be testing the suspect's brain for what's called CTE?
The ME, the medical examiner here in the city, he would make that determination on the next steps in collaboration with the district attorney in Manhattan County.
We know, Mayor, that one woman who encountered the shooter in the elevator was spared. Have you or investigators spoken to her, and how is she doing, and what did she have to say?
Yeah, it was pretty eerie when you looked at the video.
It's really weird because, like, many of the factors that contribute to this are like, there are two major factors here. One is CTE, most likely, and the other is readily available guns. Okay, accessibility of weapons, and both are no-nos because they're directly tied back to corporate profits. Corporate profits for gun manufacturers and corporate profits for the NFL. So in this unique situation, no one wants to fucking talk about either of the real reasons as to why this is taking place. Bunch of psychos in this chat supporting terrorist Hassan. Everyone and their mothers have basically come to the recognition that we have been at, which is the reason why people call me a terrorist, that what Israel is doing is unconscionable. And there are still people who come in here tirelessly day after day as Israel continues starving children to be like, dude, you're a terrorist. And you have people who support terrorism. No one here supports Israel, okay? Israel is the real terrorist in this equation. It's very odd that you guys still try to do this when public opinion on this has changed so much. Like, if you were to maybe go outside for a brief moment and have a conversation with another human being, you would realize that you are actually in the minority here. Okay? It's so strange to keep holding on to this notion that, like, and many of those guys will turn around and still be like, well, you know, Israel's doing wrong stuff, but you're still a terrorist. It's like, no one believes this. No one agrees with you. The only people that agree with you are like in Discord servers that you frequent. Please go outside. Okay, please.
Wolf, you saw that after the suspect shot several individuals, he came in contact with a woman who was leaving the elevator, and he allowed her to walk past him without any action at all. And he just shot one of the security guards who was behind the desk. And so that is going to be part of the investigation and the interviews that will follow.
Was the suspect's concealed firearms permit that was issued in Nevada back in 2022 still active? And what do we know about the permit or any of the gun purchases?
We're looking into that. That is why our team is going to Las Vegas to do a thorough investigation into the firearms to find out were they legally possessed and were they on his permit and was he allowed to follow. But that is part of the ongoing investigation that our detectives are going to carry out in Las Vegas.
As you know, President Trump issued a statement earlier this morning from Scotland saying he's been briefed on the shooting and he expressed his condolences. Have you actually, Mayor, spoken to the president since last night's shooting? And if so, what did he have to say?
No, I have not. And we thank him for his kind words for all of the victims and for our slain officer. I have communicated with our federal authorities, and our teams are doing the same. They are assisting us as we move forward in this investigation.
Finally, Mayor, I know you spoke with police officer Didarul Islam's family, the New York police officer who was killed. You are a former police officer yourself, so what's your message to his family and the family of the other victims?
A painful moments, and everyone who puts on a uniform, we do it with the full understanding that we're going to run towards danger as others will run away. And this was his dad's only son. And, you know, as a father with one child and a son, I could only imagine how painful it is. And I shared that with him and his family. And we thanked them for their service. This is a fine family. This was a fine young man that believed in faith, believed in fatherhood, and believed in protecting the city of New York.
And as I said, our deepest condolences to his family. May he rest in peace, and may his memory be a blessing. Mayor Eric Adams of New York, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, this is, I mean, we know how this happens. It's the only country where it happens so frequently. No other country has this kind of issue, or when it happens one time in another country, they very quickly solve it. It's not a natural disaster. It is completely avoidable. It's completely preventable. It's a matter of political will. It's a matter of the government taking the correct action in this case, which they never will. What else is there to say? I will say this much. Zohran Mamdani had a tweet about this. He said, "I'm heartbroken to learn of the horrific shooting in Midtown, and I'm holding the victims, their families, and the NYPD officer in critical condition in my thoughts. Grateful for all of our first responders on the ground." And Edward Isaac Dover, who is supposed to be an unbiased CNN reporter, had this to say. Remember, as I've said, Edward Isaac Dover is like the #1 anti-Bernie guy. Is an absolute psychopath. Here's what he said. As the casualties of the shooting are assessed, including the Bangladeshi immigrant who was the off-duty officer killed while working security, the only statement from the New York City Dem mayoral nominee remains this tweet, sent while he is still in Uganda for wedding celebrations. He is such a bad faith hatchet man. He's such a piece of shit. Yeah. He is such a fucking bad faith piece of shit. That's why I said, I remember his name. He's always been a bad faith hack. It's also crazy because like Zohran is not the mayor currently. He's not the mayor currently. Eric Adams is. On February 24th, Smith said in a group message to the rest of the crisis team, "Just talk to Edward Isaac Dover at the Atlantic. He's very hard on our side on this." When asked for clarification, Smith replied, "Total mind meld. He says he could be convinced to write something on Andrew because he thinks this whole thing is bullshit." Dover, who now also works at CNN, did indeed write something for the Atlantic on Cuomo, which took the shape of the unfortunately titled story of course Andrew Cuomo isn't going to resign. He was a massive, massive anti-Bernie guy. He's always been a hatchet man for the DNC. He despises anyone to the left of Nancy Pelosi, basically. And here he is biting off more than he can chew once again. He will just perpetually be on the wrong side of every issue because he is ideologically bound to the DNC position, like the centrist liberal position. Anyway, we got some updates on Trump as well. There is also, speaking of Zohran, there's a new New York City mayoral general election poll from Zenith Polls and Public Progress. The most comprehensive poll of the race finds Mamdani with a commanding 28-point lead in a 5-way race and getting over 50% head-to-head versus Cuomo. This is from Adam Carlson, who blocked me a long time ago, but I think he's been pretty good on this stuff. Here are some top line from the stats. 85% of young men support Zohran Mamdani. 75% of young women support Zohran Mamdani. 67% of Jewish people aged 18 to 44 support Zohran Mamdani. 65% of black people aged 18 to 44 support Zohran Mamdani. Would you have guessed any of that with how the media has covered all of this? Obviously, no poll is perfect, and you shouldn't get comfortable. But my point is, Zohran Mamdani is doing a lot better than the way the media has covered him. Post-primary poll data by Data for Progress suggests Mamdani's criticism of Israel and support for Palestinians attracted voters. Who could have told you that? Who kept repeating this over and over again? Yes, I'm going to do Crystal Ball's Slotkin interview as well, where she destroys Elisa Slotkin. 78% of Dem voters agreed with Mamdani's belief that Israel was committing a genocide in Gaza, and 63% back his pledge to arrest Netanyahu. Yeah, 60% of Dems are more likely to support a candidate who doesn't visit Israel. Mamdani drew fire from his rivals for saying he wouldn't want to travel to Israel as mayor. According to the poll, 60% of Democratic Party voters, primary voters, said they are more likely to support a candidate who declines to visit Israel by citing the need to focus on local issues. I kept repeating this over and over again throughout the past election. This didn't happen overnight. This kind of enmity did not come across overnight. Seems increasingly obvious that Gaza is going to be the defining wedge issue in the 2028 Dem primary. Holy Toledo. Here is Harry Enton talking about it as well. There's more information coming out on this as well because Israel's starvation campaign is continuing. 2/3 or more of the New York City Democrat primary voters agree with Zohran Mamdani's position on Israel, including arresting Bibi. 57% say they might oppose Dems who don't endorse Mamdani for mayor. That includes party's 2 Brooklyn-based leaders in Congress. This is something that they are incredibly fearful of. It is not Zohran Mamdani's failure that people are fearful of. Democrats are worried that he will succeed. Democrats are worried that he has succeeded. Because when he succeeds, people are emboldened. Okay? When he succeeds, people go, hold up. We can demand more from our politicians. Why aren't you like him? It turns out there are people who can just say fuck Israel and like still win. And I say fuck Israel. I think it's fuck Israel o'clock. Why aren't you saying it? That's it. Here's the new Gallup poll on this as well. American support for Israel's military campaign against Hamas is called to a new low, 32%. Still, 71% of Republicans approve Israel's actions in Gaza. Just 8% of Democrats back the Israeli government's war plans. 8%. And by the way, remember, Democrats were already at 18% in January. Okay? Only 18% of Democrats were in favor of Israel's actions in Gaza in January of 2024. This was always an incredibly partisan problem. The very fact that our Democrats our politicians did not actually respond to this major issue of crisis, major conflict, major moral problem is ridiculous. Who was out here? New polling commissioned by Semaphore shows how the anti-Israel craze has remade the Democrat Party. 78% of Democratic primary voters in New York City believe that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. Democrats are going to have to start deciding if they'd rather avoid criticism for AIPAC or win elections. I want you to understand something. This is why I kept saying over and over again that this was a non-starter even in the election cycle. This did not change overnight. Make no mistake, the very same problems, the very same attitude that people are now coming to recognize existed already within the Democratic Party's base of support. This is why I kept saying over and over again that Kamala Harris avoiding this issue is idiotic. Okay? Remember that. This is why I kept repeating over and over again that you can't just simply say, oh, dude, Muslims need to shut the fuck up and suck it up and vote for Kamala Harris. It's like, this is a major problem. This is a major problem for the Democrats if they don't address it. And they didn't address it, and they lost the election. They were willing to throw the election away in favor of a pathic fascist like Donald Trump, who would seize control of every fucking facet of government and ruin what remains of the moral fabric that holds society together, specifically so they could avoid talking about Israel. As Israel kept doing is genocide, okay? And now you have all of these prominent Democrats finally coming to that fucking conclusion. Now you have the media finally covering this issue. I cannot repeat this enough, okay? We were fucking right from the start, and they lied about it. The media lied about it. The media obfuscated the truth. The media kept repeatedly making it seem as though there was actually a base in the Democratic Party's base of support that demanded more in terms of defending Israel, in terms of continuing Israel's genocide. That was always bullshit. That was never real. And I kept repeating over and over and over again that if they don't care about the moral calculation here, if they didn't care about the immorality of supporting a genocide, at least they could have taken a position from a totally cynical, amoral, bloodless election-focused attitude. They could have just literally faked their support for Palestinians, specifically because they want to win the election, because it is a popular winning issue. And yet on both fronts, I kept getting yelled at. I mean, look at the Pod Johns now versus like the conversation that I had leading up to the election. I want to show you something here.
And I don't think Democratic candidates should take money from AIPAC or vote to fund military support for Israel anymore. Like, I really don't. In this government, absolutely not. And that especially includes I think, the next Democratic nominee for president.
Things I want to see Democrats at least calling for is cutting off military assistance to Israel. It's a rich country, by the way. They don't need our $3 billion a year. And hands up, right? Barack Obama signed a 10-year MOU for $3.3 billion a year. Like, so you're part of the problem here. Let's correct it. I would like to see talk about sanctioning Israeli government officials who use genocidal rhetoric or who talk about ethnic cleansing openly. We should support a ceasefire resolution at the UN. We should demand that international press be allowed into the Gaza Strip to report on what's happening without an IDF minder. It's insane. The press still can't go into Gaza and cover what's happening. And I also think, like, there has to be a total mindset change in the Democratic Party. When the war ends, we are not going back to the pre-October 7th status quo, because it's not where the party is. It's not where the world is. We're not going to shovel billions a year in military aid. We're not going to veto every effort to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN. We should not take money from AIPAC. And, like, I will hold out hope for better political leadership in the U.S. and in Israel. But we have to also recognize that the Biden era hug Bibi Netanyahu strategy has to be thrown.
Look, if you're a dude under the age of 30, this is when I was ringing the alarm bells offline with Jon Favreau before the election. Hassan Piker on Trump's bro strategy, right-wing media, and Harris's chance in the 2024 election. There's also a point that I make about Kamala and I think it's like here where I talk about
Politics,
like Israel.
Because I think we could have an entire other conversation about the policy around Gaza. I think it is continues to be catastrophic policy. I think on the
Genuinely trying to win every voter, you would have put a Palestinian at the DNC to come out and speak. You would have had Ruva come out and speak at the DNC and endorse Kamala Harris. You would have tried to not get into the Humphrey trap and you know, part as best as you can, try to desperately show the American population that you're at least marginally different than Joe Biden on this issue. You wouldn't be running towards Joe Biden on this issue. That's even a more holistic problem, I think, with the Kamala Harris campaign in terms of like, remember, this is before the election. This is before the election. This is before the election. Every media opportunity she has nowadays, she will be like, I'm just like Joe Biden. I am Joe Biden. I love Joe Biden. I love Dick Cheney. And the only difference I have between me and Joe Biden is that I will have a Republican in my administration. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I get that they have completely changed their messaging strategy and their strategy on the ground to like flip Republican suburb, like, you know, educated small business owner, white former Republican voters, and like flip them to go along with like a managed, a less volatile Republican framework. Like that's what they're communicating.
Yeah.
To those people.
I think okay. First of all,
but you're leaving a lot of people you're leaving a lot of people aside, is basically what I'm saying.
I'm going to separate the policy from the politics, because I think we could have an entire other conversation about the policy around Gaza. I think it continues to be catastrophic policy. I think on the politics of this would have been
So see, this is what I mean. Like, I think John here was like holding on to, you know, I much love for Jon Favreau. Okay. The Pod Johns have always been, have always been in welcoming to my position, even challenging their positions. Right. Is policy not politics? No. Stop, guys. We're political commentators. What he's doing is responding to what I always do. I talk about policy and then I talk about politics. These are two separate things. Calm down. Okay? He's saying that he's separating politics and policy because I started off the conversation like this. Okay? What do I always say? I say Republicans have horrible policies, but they play good politics. Okay? As in, they set up wedge issues and they really hammer it. And obviously, the legislative agenda is bad. That's the policy side, because it's damaging to the public. But politics is different. Politics is what you focus on and how you win elections. What kind of tricks you're willing to pull in an effort to win an election. What kind of issues you even focus on. What kind of things you turn into issues to begin with. Like trans issues, right? That's politics. Banning HRT is policy. Okay? Yeah, politics is a discussion around electoral vote seeking. What gains you votes? They were under the mistaken assumption that supporting Israel would gain votes, and the proof is proven that to no longer be true. But the point I was trying to make is that these guys, for some reason, and I don't know why, because I thought this was what he's about to say here is very informative. He just pulls some information that is just completely untrue. Look,
easy win, and they should have had a Palestinian American speak at the convention. I was just in Michigan talking to a lot of folks on the ground, some pretty progressive folks as well, who know the state really well, and they said the challenge here is we are extremely worried about the Muslim and Arab American vote in Michigan. We are also worried about Jewish vote in Michigan as well, because there's a lot of, they're like, we're fielding calls from folks in Dearborn, folks in Ann Arbor being like, not going to vote for the Democratic ticket, and then fielding calls from folks in the suburbs being like, I'm a Jewish Democrat. I've been Democrat all my life. I can't vote for the ticket this time because they haven't been sufficient. What? I know, but this is I'm just telling you. I don't fucking like it.
Haaretz conducted a study that showed that Jewish Americans list Israel as their 9th priority out of 10. It's the 9th priority in the top 10. Now, you might say it's because, both parties it's uniparty on Israel. And that is the case. Like, that's directly the case. It only goes more right. Like, it's either full tilt genocide plus annexation of West Bank, which is what Donald Trump is most likely going to do, or full tilt genocide and maybe annexation of West Bank later down the line when the Republican does it and then the Democratic Party doesn't reverse that decision. So on that front, maybe that's the reason why he's uniparty, but I don't believe that, especially for young Jewish voters as well. Young Jews that are not getting the same media diet that like older voters have gotten across the board.
Definitely generational.
Yeah, have the almost exact same
for sure
issue divide on Israel-Palestine. It is exactly the same with every other demographic. If you're remember, this is before the election. This is me talking about the issue of Palestine and how much the Democrats are fucking up and how much they have fucked up. This is a month out from the election, okay? This is a month out from the election. This was this was after 1 year of Israel doing a genocide. And every single point that I brought up, immigration in the media and Kamala's campaign and all of its fucking failures are now the #1 priority amongst the media. Now everyone is saying it, okay? Every single person has arrived at the conclusions that I brought up here. There's a reason why, regardless of what random dumb fucks online claim about my acumen, about my political perspectives or whatever, that these guys who are supposed to be like the, serious commentators have a very different opinion about what I suggest. Here's from a month ago. Great interview, and I'm watching this June after the election. And man, Hassan Piker nailed all of it. But Democrats, not even you, John, struggle to hear what he's saying. You look at it and try to manipulate every mini demographic, but you don't look at what's universal. Just now listening to this, how spot on it was. This is a month ago. Delusional men doing the nonsense blabbing. Piker's pure propaganda, not too bright, obviously. Left-wing, zero common sense voters voted. Okay. Hassan is a terrorist supporter 5 months ago. Young people see right-wing ideology every single day. The fact that people think Jake's nephew is a man of reason is pathetic. Okay, you got right-wing brigaders. Whatever, bro. You're so predictable. You just say the right thing, but you say it ahead of time when it's too early for the current lib Overton window. That's it. That is what it is. Now, my expectation isn't that people take note of what I'm saying and listen to me 100%. But especially after the Zoran victory at this point, like the way I have explained how Democrats could win elections, Zoran proved. Those were the new comments, not the top comments. Those were I sorted the new comments. Dude fucking nailed what happened this week. People went back and watched it right after the election. Bro was spitting facts and no one in the Democratic Party was listening. My point is, what were the motives that caused, you should make a career out of this? That's funny. Yeah. If only had a career as a political commentator. My point is this, okay? What were the motives? What were the personal biases that you had leading up to the election that caused you to hear something like this and go, I don't believe it. Okay? Yeah. That's it. Because if you go back and watch that interview before the election, you will see me nail every single major point, whether it be ringing the alarm bells for young men swinging to the right dramatically, a lot worse than people thought. At that point, people weren't fully aware of this. The issue of immigration and how Democrats have communicated this problem and how it could swing and how it will swing back to a place of normalcy. But the Democrats shouldn't wait for that to happen, but instead should have early on communicated a counter message against like whatever the Republicans were presenting as like immigrants posing a problem. Yeah, Muslim voters make up 2.8% of the total Michigan electorate. Total Jewish should also be 1.2%. This discounts a big Lebanese population, Christian Arabs, but also a lot of especially younger Jews have been leading the protest movement against Israel's genocide. One Democratic strategist who's been polling Michigan told Jewish Insider, 1% of the Michigan electorate is Muslim. To watch the media talk, you'd think it was 30%. Jews comprise 2% of the Michigan electorate. Both are very small numbers, but one is twice as large as the other. Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. All of the experts in liberal media at the time said this was wrong over and over again. New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, even the Podjahs, who were more favorable to my position, and they did not listen. At a certain point, you have to realize, like, it's either one of two things. One, they're too stuck in their own echo chambers to realize that that leftist commentators are certainly ahead of the game here and have a better understanding of the fucking environment, than both the media environment and also what regular people are demanding. Or they are deliberately avoiding talking to people like myself or listening to people like myself and responding to the demands that we are making because they don't want to win. For some, it's both. I mean, I got fucking kicked out of the DNC, remember, for this position that I have that, like, even at that point, the majority of Democratic Party voters had, okay? They kicked me out of the DNC for the position that the overwhelming majority of the Democratic Party held. This change did not happen overnight, chat. You need to understand that could define the election. This change in attitude didn't happen overnight in the election as well. And liberals on TikTok still try to say you didn't even get kicked out of the DNC and left on your own. I don't care. Those guys are professionally wrong, and ironically enough, they're not even paid to be wrong. They want to get paid by the Democratic Party, but they're not getting paid by the Democratic Party. So they're just wrong. That's it. But this, like, I want you to understand it. It's good that there is now like a major sea change here and an attitude shift here, okay? Let's take a look.
You know, Benjamin Netanyahu, if you look at polling in the United States, he is lost in the court of public opinion. I want you to take a look here at his net favorable rating. It is the lowest on record, according to Gallup, and they have records going all the way back since the 1990s. What are we talking about here? Well, in April of 2019, before, obviously, Israel in Gaza and the latest war that's been going on for a long time, Benjamin Netanyahu was on the positive side at plus 13 points. Look at where he is today, minus 23 points. My goodness gracious. You look at those under the age of 35, his net favorable rating at this point, get this, 53 points underwater. My God. And this, of course, has everything to do with Israel's actions in Gaza, the American people at this particular point not exactly liking what they're seeing, and they believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is in large part responsible.
So to that point, how do Americans feel about Israel's actions in Gaza right now?
Yeah, so let's take a look at this. I mean, net approval, Israel's military acts in Gaza. You go back to November of 2023, it was on the positive side of the ledger, plus 5 points. I bet if you even go back a little bit further, it'd be a little bit higher, but Gallup only measured in November of 2023 at plus 5 points. Look at here where we are in July of 2025. Way down there at minus 28 points. Among those under the age of 35, get this, a negative 73-point net approval rating. This is all being led. All the negative opinions towards Israel and their acts in Gaza are being led by the younger folks in the electorate. Negative 73 points on the net approval rating. You rarely ever see numbers that low, and that is charging up this number, 28 points underwater. The net approval rating of Israel's military acts in Gaza. The American people do not like what they're seeing and increasingly dislike what they're seeing.
That is really a shift. And this is leading to a number of other feelings when it comes to Israel in general. I mean, as we look at that, and also questions about Palestinians and you know, whether to recognize the state of Palestine, that's back in the news because of Emmanuel Macron. Where do we stand on some of those questions?
Yeah, so, you know, for the longest period of time, Americans have sympathized more with the Israelis than the Palestinians. That's still the case, but it's only by +5. You go back to May of 2024, it was +17. Right after October 7th, look at this, it was +48. In 2017, it was +39 points. That
The sea change is good, but don't let the media elite have a pass, brother. Holy fuck. When did I do that? They're still dropping the ball. They're still not far enough on this equation.
That is a dramatic drop. That is, what is that, a 43-point drop since the aftermath of October 7th. And again, under the age of 50, you look at those younger voters, it was +38 Israelis back all the way back in 2017. You look now, it is +19 Palestinians. There has simply put been a complete change of opinion on this topic, and it has been at least driven in large part by how Americans view the military actions of Israel in Gaza.
It was fascinating to see those numbers, Harry. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's crazy about this is that this attitude shift has taken place in spite of the delicate and, dare I say, desperate attempts of the media manufacturing consent for Israel, trying to contextualize Israel's violence, trying to make it seem like it's appropriate, like their response is appropriate, constantly bringing up October 7. I think to some extent this rhetorical shift is good and fine, but buried in this exchange is, I think, going to be the compromise position that seeks to get pro-genocide establishment Dems off a lesser charge, namely the one bad man theory of pinning this all on Netanyahu. That is what I think is going to happen as well. Benjamin Netanyahu has always been the off-ramp, and I think the Democrat position is eventually going to move towards the Benjamin Netanyahu who is single-handedly responsible for all of this. 2028 primary candidates pledging not to fund Israel's military offensively is kind of meaningless. Biden pledged the same thing about Saudi Arabia in 2020 and proceeded to sell them $300 million in weapons. Track record will matter, not vague and slippery pledges. I truly wish polls in Israel showed more dissent than they actually do, but they don't. This was not one bad man. It was almost the entirety of one country, a decent percent of the U.S. population and elites in both U.S. parties. Netanyahu didn't force any of these people to do anything. It's true. Adolf Hitler wasn't the only person responsible for the Holocaust, okay? There is such a cold detachment of the issue regarding these polls. I know they represented the shift, of course, but even if the shift didn't happen, media's role in justifying what we've seen is too glaring to ignore. I agree, but there's not anything you can do. The only thing we can do is keep up the pressure and to spread the word to the best of our ability. That is what Palestinians want out of us as well. That's it. What more can you do? The thing is, it's working. So there is no reason to give up now, because the attitude shift will create even more pressure. And once there's more pressure and it becomes an even more unavoidable issue, people have to change their attitudes on the political front. Because now it's bad politics. Once it's bad politics and politicians actually create an even larger permission structure to say fuck Israel, okay, that movement will only grow. Do you understand? We are already seeing the rats jump ship. Only 13% of New York City voters don't think Israel is committing a genocide. And for months, the New York Times would throw out Mamdani's position. Israel was committing a genocide like it was a fringe far-left neurosis. Not once mentioning is the position of the Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, Doctors Without Borders, and most genocide scholars. People watching countless images of child maiming and killing for almost 2 years respond by being very angry at the party doing it. It must be hate and a craze, and not a normal response to feeling powerless in the face of unspeakable horrors paid with your tax money. Okay? It is not a craze. Olivia Reingold tries to claim that it's a craze because she writes for the Free Press. It's not a craze at all. It is not a fringe position at all. That's it. Anti-Israel fervor was a major factor behind the support for Zohran Mamdani. I gave out free ball as a ball knower. Okay? I gave it out for free. Nobody wanted to listen to it before the election, and people barely listened to it after the election. It's that simple. I don't know what else to say. Mamdani's answer to what country would you visit first as mayor was a watershed moment in the primary. His response, I plan to stay in New York, came after several of his colleagues one by one said Israel. Pundits cried foul, but normal people agree with Zohran. This is why all those fucking dumbass liberals who spend a bunch of time talking about, like, is Hassan a more dangerous prospect for American future than Donald Trump or whatever, are focused on idiotic hypotheticals. that try to present someone like myself as like a pure evil force in American politics, because they're deeply unserious people, because they can't talk about the fucking fact that they've spent the last 22 months defending Israel's genocide and defending Israel's actions that are now starving children in broad daylight in a way that every American sees and understands and is responding negatively to. Okay? So stop paying attention to fucking dumb losers who openly showcase their moral depravity, who openly showcase how deeply unserious they are, who are basically professionally wrong. And it's ironic because they're not even professionally wrong and getting paid to be wrong. They're just wrong. They're just professionally wrong, desperately holding on to this idea, this notion that like centrist liberalism is going to have a major staying power. That's it. If you want to keep being wrong, but have your opinion, if you want to not have your opinions be challenged, not have your worldview called into question, and if you don't want to actually critically examine why you believe certain things, yeah, go there. Be sedated by people who are wrong all the time. Okay? Be dulled by people who are wrong all the time. And then when an election comes in, when an election takes place, and then the reality that these guys present to you is very different than the outcome of an election, you will find yourself confused. You'll be like, "What? How could this have happened? How could this have ever happened?" Well, it's because those people left you astray. That's it. Some people choose that. Some people choose to listen to people who agree with them, who present them a false reality. But if you actually want to if you want to understand what's truly going on, sometimes you have to challenge your previous expectations, your previous opinions. You have to have those opinions be challenged. Okay? I'm biased, but I always care about the truth, and I will critically examine my own personal opinions as well. I will always look at what liberals are saying, what Republicans are saying. I will always examine what the narrative is from all sides of the American spectrum of politics. That is the reason why I am right more often than I am wrong. That's it. You can keep trying to shift the blame over and say, "Oh, the people that were correct early, that were ringing the alarm bells ahead of time and saying if Kamala doesn't change trajectory, she's going to lose, were actually responsible for her demise." Or you can look within and try to identify why you were so resentful of people who were trying to lead the party in the right direction. Okay? Anyway, let's take a look.
Sir, do you think that Jeffrey Epstein had any connections to U.S. or Israeli intelligence?
Wait, where is the 12-minute back and forth between Lisa Slotkin, who went on Crystal and Sagar's show, who got absolutely destroyed?
So,
or I guess we'll watch
not
the
that
full
I've
thing.
ever seen or heard, but there's
Have you asked?
really... No, I haven't asked. But, you know, this is like a solvable question because President Trump's CIA director, John Radcliffe, can answer this question.
Okay, I sent it previously. Should be in my logs. I think it's like the last part, right?
World War II, we're working on. But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40.
But Senator, it's not just a political...
Until he won, but because I think it's important, right? If you're going to push, and so Trump won 2 out of the 3. So I think the thing that I would push back on is the voters. Voters vote with their feet, right? We have a moment in an election where they get to decide, and there was no issue that was more difficult for me in this last, I would say, 6 years, but certainly in this last election, other than this issue, because it's personal. I'm a Middle East analyst by training. And so what I tried to do and why I think I managed to win both those communities is call balls and strikes, literally up to this week on what's going on.
So let's talk a little bit more about that.
But I think it's important, right? If you're going to push on me, then I think like there's one of us that's had an election and had to appeal to my voters and win. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Mr. Mamdani won. Or actually, I didn't know his name. I didn't know much about him until he won. But because I think this issue is motivating people in a very visceral and personal way.
Yes.
But
Oh, it
it's
starts
not
at
the
9.
only
Okay.
issue that my voters
It's
in
fine.
Michigan care about.
Of course.
And the online world, is extremely, extremely focused on this, but that doesn't always represent the majority. And I think if I can push back, like if we're out on the road every day in Michigan when I'm there. In some communities, that issue.
You are legit missing a highlight? Okay, we'll start from the start. Sorry.
I mean, I guess I'm actually a little curious, and forgive me if this is impolite. Like, I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you mean?
Well, like, we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us, reach out. So I'm curious what your goal was and why you thought to come here.
Well, first of all, I think you have a good audience. I mean, right?
We agree.
If you appealed to like 4 friends on YouTube or whatever, then I probably wouldn't be here. But I think, to me, part of the problem is that people have kind of gone to their corners. And I live this, right? I live on my family farm in a town that voted heavily for Donald Trump. I've never won my town. I've never won my precinct.
You want to know why these people are doing this kind of stuff? They're doing this kind of stuff because, one, they don't do their due diligence. That's number one. They think this is like a bipartisan show because they got Saga on. You know what I mean? She thinks it's like the closest to mainstream media, which would be non-contentious, but on the independent side. But the major reason why Elisa Slotkin and many other politicians are trying to do this kind of independent media route is because they unironically think Zoran won exclusively because he did social media. Okay? They legitimately believe it. The things that they hear on CNN, which is the recycling of Zoran won because he did great social media. He did great outreach on social media. That's why he won over and over and over again, is something that they actually believe. And I know this because Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government believes this as well. That's why they went on the Nelk Boys podcast. They don't realize that Trump didn't just win because he went on podcasts. He won because he could come across as like a normal human being on these podcasts in a way that no other politician can, because he's a television personality. Okay? And the same goes for the Democrats as well, and the same goes for Benjamin Netanyahu as well. These guys literally think, oh, if we appear on some of these podcasts, then we'll win. This is their new media strategy. They do not understand that people, especially on the independent media side, people like certain content creators like myself and many others, not because we're hot or whatever. It's because we represent a position that they do not get from MSNBC, from NBC, from CBS, from CNN. Okay? So all of those puff pieces that people write about me being like, he's a MAGA guy, he looks like a MAGA guy, but he's got progressive politics, like all this shit, all of that actually loses sight of, bro, chill with the self-fellatio, shut up. I'm making a point about I'm making a point about like why people come in and tune in, okay? And it's not because like, I mean, Anderson Cooper's hot. He's way hotter than me. There are plenty of people who are incredibly attractive on television. It has nothing to do with the way people look. Does the way people look play a role in this? Certainly. But that's not the major reason. The major reason is because of the arguments that I'm presenting that appeals to the masses. An argument that they haven't really heard before. An argument that they feel is correct, that they have not heard anywhere else before. That's it. That's it. But the media refuses to acknowledge that. Just like they refuse to acknowledge that a major part of Zoran's victory came from his commitment to identifiable policies that he kept hammering over and over and over again, regardless of whatever kind of attack was launched in his direction.
Never won my neighbors. We get along, but I never won them, and I probably never will. So to me, I think that the people have gone to their corners, and like people who used to be able to talk about politics and disagree don't even get in the same room together. So I kind of like the idea of your show. Like, it was interesting to me when my team pitched me, right? We go through, and like, there's no hiding it. Lots of people are like, how do we
evolve in this new space.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not you know, it's not that conversation isn't happening. It is, and I think that's good, and to the credit of lots of shows like yours.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I think your show appealed to me as I was being pitched because you guys don't agree. And like, I am very focused. My dad was a lifelong Republican, my mom a lifelong Democrat. Like, Michiganders want to get back to a place where we can disagree on politics and not have it be so, like, bitter.
So I hear you on.
Oh, yeah. We got to come to a place where politics isn't so bitter. It is. It's a knife fight, man. Yeah, this lady is literally CIA, by the way. Politics is a knife fight. And for the average person, they experience the impact of said knife fight. There is no like true center that we need to arrive at here, okay? It's so stupid. For the people who are starving, for the people who are suffering, for the people who have never gotten anything from the government that they consider to be a positive, like, they don't see it as like, oh, why can't our politicians just get along? This is just a talking point that no longer exists. Okay? A talking point that is not reflective of the reality. Democrats want fighters. Republicans have always want fighters, and they've always gotten fighters from their politicians. Obviously, their hyper-focus is like wedge issues that they cultivate, that they create, that they hammer on over and over and over again. But now the Democrats are finally actually breaking through. The Democratic Party's base of support is now finally breaking through this mold that they thought was the reality, that they thought is what their expectation was, which is like, oh, we want moderate stuff. We want centrists. We want people who will engage in bipartisanship. Like, no, they don't want that shit anymore. They know that it's a knife fight. They recognize that Republicans have been advocating to kill them for years and years and years at this point. Okay? They want their politicians to represent their interests and to fight back. So when Elisa Slotkin comes out and goes, no, you don't understand. We need to end this we need to end this weird partisanship or whatever. This ridiculous back and forth. It's like, you're wrong. No, they want a fighter. People want someone to represent them. Democrats want someone to represent them. And a part of that representation is the demand from the broader base of support that you fight back. You fight back against these Republican policies and politicians.
The idea of like, you want to talk about the economics and the unifying and cost of living. And I think that ignores a big elephant in the room, especially when you're talking about even Zoran Mamdani. The reason Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer don't want to endorse him is because of his position on Israel. The single most viral clip that he had in that election actually wasn't about cost of living, even though that's what he wanted to make his campaign about. His opponents, Andrew Cuomo in particular, wanted to make it all about accusing him of anti-Semitism and attacking him for his views on Israel and Palestine. So the most viral moment from that entire campaign, I believe, was this moment on the debate stage. Guys, this is E1. Let me go ahead and play this for you, and then I want to get your reaction.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not as a Jewish state?
As a state with equal rights.
Now, this was considered very controversial when he said it, and I think the results are in at this point, that he didn't win in spite of his position there. He won in part because of it, including, if you listen to Andrew Cuomo's numbers, he won a majority of Jewish voters inside of New York City. And so what I'm curious for your view on is, while, you know, I would love to debate you on your healthcare policy, I think we need Medicare for all, you think public option, your housing policy, et cetera. I'm just being really real with you. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza. And that's, for me, you know, I'm speaking for myself, but I know there are millions of other people who feel the same, that you have to at least cross this sort of moral threshold. And
Yep. Great take from Crystal. Oh my God.
what it indicates to people, and I think part of why, you know, Zoran won so many people in New York City, young people in particular, but Jewish New Yorkers.
Remember, Ta-Nehisi Coates said, how can you expect the Democrats to care about democracy if they don't care about genocide? A party that does not care about genocide certainly does not care about your democracy as well and defending democracy as well. And it's that simple. And I think more and more people are coming to that conclusion as well. Wait, are you saying Crystal is CIA? Wait, what? No, Eliza is. Eliza Slotkin
is because it was a sign of, number one, okay, you're focused on your...
Is she based the jumping ship? No, dude. What are you talking about? Crystal Ball is Kyle Kalinski's wife and has been on this for years at this point. What are we talking about? No.
New York City first and foremost. Sure. Number two, you're willing to take the heat on an issue that is really difficult for you, where you're being overtly smeared as an anti-Semite. And number three, there's no, entrenched interest that's going to control. You have a spine, you have principles, you're willing to stand up for something. And so, I'm curious for your reflections on that because of your voting record and where you've stood on this conflict.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the proudest moments that I had in my last election, where I just won on the same ballot as Donald Trump, was that I won a majority of Jewish voters in Michigan. We have a large Jewish population. And I won Dearborn Heights, and Hamtramck, the three Muslim-dominated cities. Trump won 2 out of the 3. So I think the thing that I would push back on is voters vote with their feet, right? We have a moment in an election where they get to decide. And there was no issue that was more difficult for me in this last, I would say 6 years, but certainly in this last election, other than this issue, because it's personal. I'm a Middle East analyst by training. And so what I tried to do and why I think I managed to win both those communities is call balls and strikes, literally up to this week on what's going on.
So let's talk a little bit more about that.
But I think it's important, right? If you're going to push on me, then I think like there's one of us that's had an election and had to appeal to my voters and win. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Mr. Mamdani won. Or actually, I didn't know his name. I didn't know much about him until he won. But because I think this issue is motivating people in a very visceral and personal way.
Yeah.
But it's not the only issue that my voters in Michigan care about.
Of course.
And the online world is extremely, extremely focused on this. But that doesn't always represent the majority. And I think if I can push back, like if we're out on the road every day in Michigan when I'm there. In some communities, that issue is the number one issue, 100%. And like, I mean, up till this morning, right? Like people texting my phone and talking about a plan, some of the things we're working on. But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40.
But Senator, it's not just a political issue, it's also a moral issue is what I'm trying to get to. So let's talk about those, calling of balls and strikes, if you will. So first of all,
she's either sus or just chronically offline and just doesn't get it. No, she's sus. She's CIA, bro. What do you mean? She is trying to manage this. She is trying to manage the fucking back and forth here by saying, I won in spite of my wishy-washy position on Israel. That's literally her point. Her point is, I won. I know more than you because I won my election. And I won regardless of my wishy-washy position on Israel.
Do you accept that Israel has a policy of enforced famine and starvation?
And then she's also saying that like the Gaza stuff is not that significant. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like outside of Dearborn, it's just a Muslim issue. It's just an Arab issue. It's not. It's not. It's fucking bullshit. This argument was never correct. And they're still doing it. How many fucking polls do you have to see? Like not only, first of all, something doesn't need to be good politics for a politician to actually take a moral stance on it, okay? But having said that, this is the rare instance where it's good policy, stopping a genocide. It's a moral policy, but it's also good politics. If you're not going to get punished by anyone significant for taking a stance on this issue, and instead you're actually going to win favors from significant constituencies, you take that.
In the Gaza Strip.
I think I literally put my name on a letter yesterday or last night that says like a policy of starvation, people are starting to starve. And in general, I mean, I served in places like Ramadi and Fallujah. I watched in 2004 and 2005, Al-Qaeda terrorists drag American citizens behind a vehicle until they died, right? Like horrible, and then string them up, like a lynching.
Okay.
We still had a responsibility to get aid into Fallujah despite the fact that we were fighting al-Qaeda cells in Fallujah. And I have been clear about that.
So this is a crime against humanity. Forced starvation is a crime against humanity.
The occupying power has a responsibility to get aid into the war zone, period.
So
by the law of war.
So in addition, do you accept that the Israeli plan, as reported by Haaretz, as discussed openly by ministers like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, as backed by the President of the United States, is forced ethnic cleansing?
I think we have, as recently as yesterday, the Prime Minister of Israel talking about forced migration into certain areas and then potentially out of the country. That is not legal. That is not on any international standard since World War II. And I've been clear about that. So I would ask for a little bit of an open mind.
Well, what I would ask is, listen, I'm a YouTuber. You know, I have my words, that's all I have. But you're a United States Senator. Like you're not the president, but you have power. So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents. You know,
Oh God, this is so good. It's crazy because, as Will Menaker also correctly points out, this is exactly how every journalist is supposed to be conducting these interviews. I need you guys to understand something. Regardless of people's personal biases, 20, 30, 40 years ago, okay, journalists used to be known as vultures, okay? In order to make a name for themselves, they would actually do follow-up questions such as what Crystal Ball is doing here, okay? Regardless, whether it was on CBS, CNN, doesn't matter, right? Part of that was because they wanted to fucking make a name for themselves, and they realized that when blood is in the water, they can pounce, okay? They can attack. What Tucker Carlson did to Ted Cruz, for example, is exactly the kind of landmine that every single journalist, regardless of their personal perspective, would jump on. They would take that opportunity, no matter who they're talking to, because they knew that they would drive discourse for months back then. Okay? That was the job. And the only places where people do that now is independent media. Please don't call Tucker Carlson a journalist. Tucker will only do that when he's a person he'd be happy to trash. No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. Tucker Carlson in that Ted Cruz interview did something that old school journalists would do, regardless of their personal biases or regardless of the relationship that they might have with whoever they're interviewing. Okay? I know for a fact that Jake Tapper would not do that to Ted Cruz. And Jake Tapper is ostensibly on the opposing side ideologically to Ted Cruz. Think about that. You don't have to love a person or respect his opinion or respect his work, and a person can be good at something. I'm not speaking to whatever was the motivating reason behind Tucker Carlson's actions in that interview that he conducted with Ted Cruz. I don't like Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with Tucker Carlson. I think Tucker Carlson is one of the most dangerous propagandists in this country. Okay? I think Tucker Carlson also has ambitions of potentially running for office. What you're failing to consider here is what I'm trying to explain to you is that what Tucker Carlson did to Ted Cruz used to be the way that journalists operated, regardless of their background, regardless of their political ideology, regardless of whatever program they were on. What Crystal is doing here is journalism 101, basic follow-up questions. When the person that you're interviewing is flailing, you just keep asking follow-up questions to basically understand what their worldview looks like. Okay, this is what adversarial journalism is. It is journalism 101. And yet, nowadays, you never see that from mainstream media. And not only do you never see that from mainstream media, you also rarely even see that on independent media, either because these guys never go on independent media outlets, or even when they do, it's like Ben Shapiro. And yet, this is supposed to be the most common way that these interviews are supposed to go.
Have backed Israel, as far as I can tell, from your voting record at almost every turn. You voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, by your own words. So Are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now Democrats own nothing in Washington. So
okay, so what? That should give you even more opportunity. Okay, here another thing I will mention here is that this is when Democrats are supposed to advocate for Medicare for all, knowing full well that it'll never pass, and that Trump will never vote it vote it as the law of the land regardless. So why are you not taking a stronger stance against Israel here? Regardless of your knowledge that, like, even on the messaging side, the Democrats are not even fucking taking a strong stance, knowing full well that it's not going to come to fruition anyway. Why are you still conceding on this side when you have no power?
Don't play powerless with me. Though. You're a United States Senator. There are things you can do.
In terms of who runs our foreign policy, I just think it's interesting, right, that there was a ton of protests when Democrats were in charge.
There was a protest in Manhattan yesterday.
Okay. I think.
Oh, she tried to do the why aren't people protesting Trump? Turns out they are actually. You just are not paying attention. Boom. Roasted. Move on. Next question. Oh my God, Crystal is cooking.
It's fair to say, just to be honest, that back and forth, like the number of protests that go on now versus before.
Well,
is
they were
very
part of
different.
your political coalition.
Well, not to
right?
mention, I mean,
part-
Senator Slotkin,
That's fair.
Obviously, I'm here.
Yeah.
I was very upset over the Biden administration policy. And as you can tell, I'm very upset over the Trump administration policy.
Yeah.
So let's deal not in strawman, but me and
but
here
in
and now.
terms of so the tools that I have, the tools that we have in general, to me, the most important thing is a pressurized campaign to get aid into people who are starving. That to me is the number one, because that's the one is urgent and today. And that.
But will you cut off aid to Israel so long as they're committing crimes against humanity?
There is a difference between a weapon to protect a.
Boo. Bullshit. Also, this is why it was so ridiculous for AOC to say this exact same thing that CIA's very own Elisa Slotkin is saying. There's a difference between defensive weapons and offensive. No, shut up. No, there isn't. You know who knows that there is no difference? The Israeli conscientious objector that was on fucking Majority Report earlier today, who literally said, stop giving Israel, where he lives, defensive weapons, because everybody knows in Israel that Israel only gets to do whatever the fuck it wants to because they know America is always going to defend Israel. The idea that there is a difference between Israel's like Tamir interceptors and its defensive weapons and offensive weapons that it uses is nothing. It's negligible. It's stupid. They're the one and the same. Israel can behave only as belligerent as it wants to because it knows that America is always going to foot the bill. America is always going to defend Israel no matter what. Part of the reason why they had to cut short their incursions into Iran was literally because of their lack of defensive weapons. The U.S. used up 25% of its entire THAAD interceptor stockpile in just 12 days during the Israel-Iran war. At current rates, it'll take 3 to 8 years to replenish, a key obstacle to renewed conflict with Iran. The reason why Israel had to stop wasn't because Trump was like, you have to stop. Trump only said you have to stop because they realize we don't have enough weapons. 25% of the entire THAAD interceptor stockpile was used in a matter of 12 days. Those are $15 million a pop, too. They're crazy expensive. I told you, it's so stupid.
Country from incoming missiles versus other type offensive and defensive weapons are different.
So would you support offensive weapons ban? Like, would you stop any offensive aid to Israel?
That certainly, to me, would be a place to look, but I'm not.
Oh my gosh, you won't even commit to stopping offensive weapons. First of all, this is bullshit from the start. Oh, there's a difference between defensive weapons and offensive weapons. No, there isn't. From Israel's calculation, there is no difference because Israel only, like I said, gets to behave as belligerent and as violent as it wants to because it knows that America will always replenish its stockpile. America will always defend it unconditionally. Okay? But you won't even say yes to a ban on offensive weapons anyway.
Not going to cut off a blanket next sale on a defensive weapon that comes through. No.
I also reject that because, for example, if Senator Slotkin, if you were asked to support defensive weapons for Iran, defensive weapons for Russia, you wouldn't back that.
No, but Iran, but
they're defensive. They're just protecting civilians, right? So how is it different?
But because Israel's being shot at.
So is
Russia. So is Iran.
Yeah.
So is Russia. So is Iran.
So is Russia.
Ukraine's shooting at Russia right now.
I'm sorry. This is the difference between allies, partners, and adversaries.
Why is it
Why? Oh, it's so good. Oh my God, this interview is so good. Oh my God, it's so cathartic to see finally a fucking politician being held up, like being called to task on this ridiculous unconditional loyalty and defense for Israel all over the and using these like fucking idiotic blanket neutral terms like, oh, we have to defend civilians. Okay. Are there no civilians in Iran? Are there no civilians in Russia? They're dying too. So what's the major difference? Oh, well, Israel's our ally. Why is Israel our ally? You just said they're doing war crimes. You won't say it's a genocide, even though everyone recognizes it as such. Why is a country doing a genocide our ally?
Ally then. What are they doing right now, which makes it an ally?
I think allied relationships, just like Lithuania right now, like an allied relationship.
Israel's just like Lithuania. Really? Is Lithuania doing an ethnic cleansing campaign? That's crazy. I'm willing to bet if Lithuania tried to do an ethnic cleansing campaign, America's allegiance with Lithuania would fall apart fairly quickly. I think depending on who they're doing it to, we try to hold on to that allegiance for as long as we can. There is no other country that could, with this level of support, engage in this level of violence. There is no country, okay? Nothing. Dude, Saudi Arabia was doing an ethnic cleansing campaign in Yemen, okay? And there was more back and forth and more successful legislative initiatives against weapons transfers to Saudi Arabia, at least in the way that the Democrats communicated what they would do with Saudi Arabia, regardless of how they, when they were in power, continued this allegiance with Saudi Arabia, than there was with Israel.
Partner relationship is a long-standing relationship of information sharing and diplomacy. And that is, to me, it's not a every day we decide Lithuania is our ally or not. We're allied or not. And sometimes we have big breaks with allies, right? Sometimes we have difficult moments with allies. Sometimes it goes the wrong way with allies. But an allied relationship is a long-term relationship.
It's hard for me to understand why we should ally. I'm sure you believe in or claim to believe in liberal human rights. Why would we ally with a nation that is committing a genocide and live streaming it?
Can I ask literally, this? I think about this from the mirror image way because I do not support the things that Donald Trump is doing, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm an American.
Why don't you? I mean, you voted along his agenda quite aggressively. You support him on Israel. You won't even take a partisan. Stance against Israel. Your voting record shows a different reality.
American. So do I want other countries to look at America and be like, we can't stand Donald Trump, so we're going to end any longstanding relationship we have with the American people. We're going to cut off any support we give them on information sharing or intelligence sharing. We are not just our elected leaders. And I think that's the thing that's been lost in the conversation.
So B'Tselem and another Israeli human rights organization joined the global consensus, Amnesty International, some 800 scholars. There was a piece from an Israeli scholar in the New York Times in saying this is a genocide. Do you accept, even Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday came out and said it's a genocide. Do you accept that? And if you do, what responsibility does a United States senator have? This is a nation that, we send every year billions of dollars to aid that you have, voted for and supported. What responsibility does a United States senator have to prevent genocide and to stop genocide that we see ongoing?
We have a responsibility up till today to ensure that food is getting in.
Is it
so
a
that
genocide?
People don't starve. I don't know that I'd use that term,
Why?
but it is using.
Whoa, why not? It's this is. For Democrats who are still refusing to say this, they are the Japanese imperial military soldier 39 years after the war ended, okay? They're just holding on to something. I don't know what it is. They are the Fedayeen for Israel, I guess, at this point, where they're just like, we are so loyal. Sorry. Okay. Like, what point? What point do you? It's not AIPAC, man. Shut up. It's not AIPAC. I know she got a shit ton of money from AIPAC, but like, that's not the only reason. And you can see it. You can see. I mean, dude, where is my interview with Ro Khanna at the DNC? Look. I should have pressed them on it.
Ro Khanna, everybody, we got 50,000 people watching.
You always have
excited.
a lot of people watching.
Well, you know, not always, but sometimes. So, thank you for doing this. How long do we have? Seems, especially in my generation, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about, I guess, war instead of the war economy. There is, it seems, especially in my generation, a genuine disconnect with the way that voters feel about American foreign policy and the way that politicians react to American foreign policy. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, obviously there's protests happening outside of the DNC in terms of demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. Why do you think there is such a disconnect?
One, I think there isn't a full understanding of the history of the region. You know, as someone who has studied British colonialism because of my grandfather, I mean, British colonized India, they colonized Ireland, they got rid of all the textile industry in India and Ireland, and after the Ottoman Empire, they established colonial rule over large parts of the Middle East, including Egypt and including what is now Palestine. And the Balfour Declaration was the original sin there, where, yes, we had Jewish self-determination, which I believe in Jewish homeland, but the Palestinians were only given civil and religious rights. They weren't given political self-determination. And that was a British problem. And then from 1936 to 1939, the British, through armed violence, suppressed a lot of the Palestinian self-determination. And I just think that that history isn't fully known or taught in America. And what I believe is that we need to recognize Palestinian self-determination for a Palestinian state and recognize Jewish self-determination and the right of Israel to exist as a secure nation. And if you come with that framework, which I believe is rooted in justice, then you say, okay, we look at this conflict, and Netanyahu, we can't just continue to have a blank check to Netanyahu when he is not coming to the table on peace. We need to put pressure on Hamas, and we are putting pressure and should put pressure and condemn their atrocity on October 7th. But we also need to put pressure on Netanyahu. And instead, what is happening is usually our administration goes there, and then we basically provide cover for Netanyahu adding terms, and we say that he's accepted it and Hamas doesn't, and nothing, and people keep dying.
So that you actually brought up a really interesting point, because this has just happened. There was Axios reporting that just came out that Anthony Blinken, in the latest round of talks, again did the same exact thing that you just mentioned, which is to claim that Hamas actually is sullying the terms and conditions of the deal, a ceasefire proposal that America had proposed that said it was Israel's own proposal, where obviously Israel killed the principal negotiator on the Palestinian side a couple weeks prior to that. And Anthony Blinken just yesterday said, oh no, Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to the deals of this proposal. And then it came out during this, like literally in the past 24 hours that no, Benjamin Netanyahu had not agreed to the terms and conditions of the proposal once again. I personally fear, I do not want another Trump presidency. And I personally fear that, electorally speaking, obviously I think it's unconscionable. I consider what Israel is doing to be a genocide. I'm very open about that. I consider Israel, alongside all of these human rights groups, from Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and Israeli human rights groups like B'Tselem, to be an apartheid state even when it's not conducting offensive operations in Gaza. Having said that, however, beyond all of that, I think that there's the morality of the situation, which I think is unconscionable, but then there's also the electoral consequences of leaving someone like Benjamin Netanyahu, who is right-wing, who is very right-wing, who is aligned with Donald Trump. There's other reporting coming out now that he might even have private conversations, private correspondences about the ceasefire negotiation with Donald Trump directly. Leaving that out on the table without...
Brother, have you ever considered taking a class to help you sharpen your interviewing skills? You conduct a lot of interviews and you're not getting better. Just being real, permabanned.
While we have an election coming up, is, I think, leaving too many cards on the table for a foreign actor to potentially end up changing the trajectory of the American election in a pretty significant way. Do you feel like the Democrats are seeing that as a reasonable threat in terms of like what Benjamin Netanyahu might be able to do that would potentially lead America into war as well, into this conflict directly? Do you feel like within the caucuses there is like a genuine perceived threat of such a reality?
Well, I agree with you on the danger of Netanyahu. I would use different language in characterizing Israel. I mean,
look, he gets nervous here. He's like, I would use different language. I wouldn't say genocide.
I believe is that Israel is illegally occupying the West Bank in Gaza, and that that occupation is illegal. But I've been to Israel. I think Israel should exist as a secure state, and that Israel is an ally. But we should be against the occupation. We should be for a two-state solution, and we should recognize a Palestinian state and be one of the 143 countries around the world that does that, which in itself would be a bold policy. So while I don't use some of the language you do, I just a disagreement. I am quite progressive on the issue, and I was one of 37 Democrats who voted against a blank check in giving offensive aid to Netanyahu because of the concerns of human rights. And I have no love for Hamas. I think they have been engaged in brutal terrorism, but I don't think that the solution is militarily possible if eradication of Hamas, what Hamas was trying to do, is not achievable.
A reality that Defense Minister Yoav Gallant also has.
This is also something that he still says. I'm sick and tired of the tired platitude that an ally like Israel, we must not disagree publicly in the media. He said this 4 days ago. Can you elaborate on how he's wrong? My lib brain is being tricked. How he's wrong. It is a genocide. It is an apartheid. He refuses to acknowledge both. And even now he says, oh, Israel is an ally and, there's mass starvation. Why? Why is Israel an ally? Because you said so? Why is a foreign country like this that is committing untold amounts of violence and is in direct odds with international rights, international law, an ally? And this is before October 7. Post October 7, they've kicked up their genocidal ambition in broad daylight to a degree where the average American can comprehend that this is wrong. But even before October 7, as by Ro Khanna's own admission, they are violating international law. They're doing settlements in the West Bank. This process is known as an apartheid. It's bullshit. It's ridiculous. Anyway, getting back to Crystal Ball with Slotkin.
It is violating the law of war.
Why don't you use the term, though?
Because I think, it's, to me, do I think it's ethnic cleansing, which is what I think of in genocide? I don't know if it meets that definition.
They're announcing
but didn't you say it earlier that it was ethnic cleansing? You said that they wanted to force it. I mean, this is open from the Israeli government. Like, they're saying it. Their Minister of National Security, they come out and they're like, we don't need shells. We need shells, not food. And we need to encourage migration. They're saying
you're not going to get me to support what the Israeli government is saying right now. Right. I think the point I was trying to make is it's not just about, we have relationships with nations over time, regardless of who their leaders are. We have really tough moments. We have easier moments. But that doesn't, so I'm not willing to say that, I hate everything ever.
Sure,
into
but
the future.
even if you accept that they're committing a genocide, you still wouldn't cut off their aid?
I think that defensive aid and offensive aid are different things. And I think at this point.
That's crazy. Nazi Germany, we have to keep giving them anti-aircraft weapons. There's obviously Germans in Nazi Germany that are civilians. We have to keep defending them.
What they're doing every single day.
If Nazi Germany said we want defensive aid, I mean, it's just you have to see.
What do you mean? Come on, you can't say come on. It's the same shit. Nazi Germany was an ally at a certain point. What do you mean? We had tremendous financial involvement with Nazi Germany,
where they're all weapons that are being shipped. In
They're
another
not using
context,
the weapons that they're using right now. I mean, to be honest, if you look at what's happening on the ground, the military part of this conflict is, for the most part, over. What they are doing, what they are doing every single day is around aid, and they are hurting people around the
The military part of this conflict is not over. They still have fucking Israeli occupying force terrorists get smoked, packed up by Palestinian resistance forces all the time. The military part of this conflict is not over. And the only reason why you could even say that, if what you were saying was true, the only reason why you would say that is because you're like, oh no, they finished the genocide. Like, they finished the ethnic cleansing part of this. And now they're just simply starving the entire Palestinian population and killing Palestinians at the point of aid delivery. That's ridiculous. You can say a lot of things are complex, complicated, a lot of gray areas. This is not one of them. Genocide is not one of those areas. That's it. They can't. And that's the reason why these guys can't say Israel's an apartheid, despite the fact that everyone understands that it is an apartheid. They can't say Israel's doing a genocide because despite the fact that everybody understands Israel's doing a genocide. And the reason why they can't say that is because it immediately stops all of these conversations. It stops all of these conversations. Is that what AOC is getting bashed for? Defensive weapons for Israel? Like, AOC ultimately voted against the bill, but she voted against an amendment that was like a messaging amendment that Marjorie Taylor Greene set up to say, we are stopping defensive weapons to Israel as well. She not only voted no on the amendment, she then turned around and also defended why she voted no on the amendment by saying exactly what Elisa Slotkin is saying here, which is defensive weapons need to keep going to Israel because Israel has civilians. I don't want Israeli civilians to die, blah, 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 blah. Okay? It was bullshit. It was a bullshit response. It was a bullshit reasoning. It was bullshit for her to vote no on the Marjorie Taylor Greene amendment. And it is ridiculous that AOC, that's supposed to be the beacon of positivity in Congress, like the leader of this leftist movement, the person who is supposed to take over from like Bernie Sanders, take up the mantle from Bernie Sanders, is getting outflanked by a disgusting demon, a charlatan, a cynical grifter like Marjorie Taylor Greene. It also is inherently contradictory to her initial position that Israel is doing a genocide. She said Israel's doing a genocide on the floor of Congress a year before Marjorie Taylor Greene did. She openly stated that it was a genocide literally a year and a half before any prominent politician did, with the exception of obviously the Ilhan Omar and the Rashida Tlaibs in Congress. So for her to then turn around and be like, Israel's doing a genocide, but like we have to defend the civilian population of Israel, and we have to allow Israel to continue doing a genocide because they know full well that we will always defend them, is crazy. Pointing at Marjorie Taylor Greene and being like, oh, I'm not giving her a W here is silly. You should be the one who's suggesting this, not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Thousands of people who were starving people just trying to get aid.
That is
I
not
know you know this.
That's not high intensity bombs. That's not the weapons that we were talking about 2 years ago. It's just not. I'm sorry. Every single day, the military reports that I read, they are traditional. Like, this is a military that has a bad strategy. It is not the bombs that we were seeing 2 years ago.
It's not a military that has a bad strategy. The strategy is...
Yeah, the strategy is pretty clear. The doctrine is pretty clear. The strategy is pretty clear. Every Israeli politician at a certain point has basically said they want ethnic cleansing. It's not like, ooh, they're making a lot of mistakes on the ground. You could have said that. It would have been a lie, but you could have at least tried to say that, 3-4 months in, beginning of 2024, right? You can't say that 22 months in. Everybody knows what the fuck is up. And you especially can't say that as a Democratic politician, because the Democratic Party and its base is not confused on this. It's a 80-20 issue. It's not even an 80-20 issue. It's a 92-8 issue now. Amongst Democrats, only 8% of Democrats think that what Israel is doing in Gaza is appropriate and good and must be supported. 8%. I can't think of anything that has this much agreement within any base of support, within any party.
Forced starvation
That
and
is-
ethnic
that is
cleansing.
not a-
That's
that is-
their strategy. And they're accomplishing it very effectively with the full backing of the United States government, including, sadly, Democrats.
Well.
And so a couple more questions that I know you have to run. I'm curious why you condemned Rashida Tlaib for using the rally chant, from the river to the sea, something she said for her evokes equal rights. And you have not condemned Randy Fine, who said that Gazans should, quote, starve away, who floated that the Gaza Strip should be nuked, who called Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Soran as well, called them Muslim terrorists. Where is the concern over him?
I have no problem condemning Randy Fine, who I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know who that person is. I have no problem condemning someone who talks like that.
Senator, we have to ask your last question because
I have no problem condemning who Randy Fine. I have no problem condemning Randy Fine, who I don't know who he is crazy. You're in Congress. He is a congressperson. He's not like some random guy on the street. What the fuck?
Your staff is telling us. Do you think AIPAC should...
Yeah, only 32% in the United States, and the overwhelming majority is Republicans, okay? Only 32%. We have finally arrived at the position that we were always going to arrive at, which is that outside of the evangelical Zionist base, the overwhelming majority of Americans do not support Israel's military actions in Gaza. 60% total disapproval. 60%. Independents at 25% support. Democrats at 8% support. Republicans at 71% support. It's ridiculous. It is completely and utterly ridiculous. 79% disapproval from Democrats, 60% disapproval from independents, 18% disapproval from the Republicans. Democrats see Netanyahu at 9%, independents favorable view of Netanyahu at 19%, Republican favorable view of Netanyahu at 67%. What are we doing? American support for Israel's military operation in Gaza and their positive views of Netanyahu have both reached new lows, reflecting sharp declines in Democrats and independent support. At the same time, Republicans' backing of Israel's military action and its prime minister is holding firm, resulting in record partisan gaps on both. The increasingly skeptical and divided American public, by the way, if the Democrats do not use this to their advantage from a partisan perspective, from a partisan framework, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you just don't want to win. You care about Israel. You only care about Israel. You don't care about anything else. You only care about Israel. That's it.
Where is the concern over him?
I have no problem condemning Randy Fine, who I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know who that person is. I have no problem condemning someone who talks like that.
Senator, we have to ask your last question because your staff is telling us. Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
Why is that a question? Why is that such a difficult thing to answer? Why are you pausing? The answer is yes. It's literally Israel.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that...
Why? It's Israel. It's literally in the name, man. It's a foreign country. Why?
I know plenty of people who think they should.
Mm-hmm.
I don't...
It's kind of a cop-out answer, don't you think?
I literally, I just guess I'd have to look at the definition. I certainly have had my tough moments with that organization. And
so you stop accepting their funding?
You got to get your facts straight. I have not been endorsed by AIPAC. I'm sorry. I was the first Jew elected to the Senate that was not endorsed by any Jewish group. AIPAC, J Street.
You've been the recipient of their funds.
In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, yes. But I've not been endorsed since then. And I just got to be honest, I think that this is where facts really matter.
$671,000. Did I nail it? She took J Street money, has taken $660,000 from pro-Israel lobby groups, $655,000 from independent expenditures and campaign contributions received from pro-Israel interest groups. It's not just AIPAC, by the way. God damn it. I thought it was close, but I guess I was. Oh, I wasn't endorsed. They just gave me money. Oh, okay. Then I guess you're doing this for the love of the game then. Is that right? I guess you are upholding this unholy allegiance with a foreign nation state that is an apartheid state that is doing a genocide for the love of the game? Weird. It's also a lie anyway. Breaking. Senator Slotkin claims no AIPAC endorsement since 2021 after funding question. Records show 2022 cycle donations from AIPAC and other pro-Israel groups. On breaking points, Senator Elisa Slotkin pushed back on the criticism. In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, I've had very difficult conversations with my colleagues and made a choice back in 2021.
I've had very, very difficult conversations with my colleagues in that organization and made a choice back in 2021. 2021, so that was the first time I was up for re-election. So I understand that there's a sort of like, again, cornered position. But to me, like, I call balls and strikes as someone who served in the Middle East.
Yeah. Also, here's wife guy Kyle Kalinske responding to Ken. Ken says, wow, a Dem senator actually went on a show that asked tough questions to the usual captured outlets. Credit where it's due. Kyle says, no credit. She saw it was a left-right show and thought it was some centristy beltway bullshit. She had no clue what she signed up for, and she learned her lesson the hard way. It's the ultimate wife guy, Kyle Kalinske here.
I have one more question I have to ask you. You know, we do the show. I really do my best to try to uphold, like, you know, basic human rights, Palestinian humanity, oppose the killing of innocent civilians wherever that happens. And I have to tell you, like, I feel really guilty that I'm not doing enough. I think all.
Yeah. One other thing I want to say is that with Ted Cruz on the Tucker Carlson show, and now with this, I think more and more independent outlets will try to get politicians on to have this kind of moment for themselves. Because at the end of the day, Hassan, you are a fucking jurors. What does that mean? Anyway, I think that there will be more of this in the future.
the time about, I'm a mom, I think all the time about those moms who can't feed their babies. Those babies are starving to death. And I just want to know, like, you're a United States Senator, you did vote for some of the bombs that were dropped on refugee camps. When kids have been sniped in the head, tents firebombed, people set on fire. The entire Gaza Strip turned into rubble. And now we're seeing these emaciated bodies of babies starving to death every day. And I know
what you can do.
Does it eat you up? Does it eat you up? Do you think, like, what more could I do? Do you regret any of your votes? Do you regret
let me tell
any
you what
sort
I
of
was working on this morning. A group of Jewish rabbis and Muslim community leaders came together with a proposal that we are working on just getting, like, if we can't get other aid in, at least get baby formula and new.
Why? Why can't we get other aid in? We have complete control over Israeli politics and Israeli foreign policy. If that wasn't the case, you would have cut off access to Israel a long time ago. We're working tirelessly to get baby formula in, even if we can't get anything else. It's so stupid. It's so fake. Who believes this shit?
Nutritional supplements for children in. Let that be kind of a green light, never has a problem. No one's trying to eat baby formula other than a baby, right? That is the proposal that I've been working on all night and this morning. So in terms of what we're trying to do.
Wow, incredible. So you, by your own admission, the ally that we're having some trouble with is denying baby formula into the Gaza Strip, which is the belligerent occupier of, that it has pummeled into oblivion, that has committed a litany of war crimes. You won't say it's a genocide, but you admit that there's a litany of war crimes. And you still have this argument that, like, well, we have to keep up their defense. There is no world where this is a consistent position. Okay? It is not consistent. Israel has specifically denied baby formula from going in with doctors and medical volunteers going into the Strip. Exactly. They literally stop American doctors that are trying to bring in baby formula into the Strip. They stop and they dump out the baby formula. Senator Slotkin acknowledges that Israel blocked baby formula, but still won't support cutting off the flow of arms. Why would the U.S. want to arm a country that cuts off baby formula? Interesting. Yes, I know there's a Peter Beinart interview with Jon Stewart as well. Peter Beinart is pretty solid when it comes to this stuff too. Let's take a look.
There's not a moment that goes by that this isn't something that I'm working on and something that my own community, not online, but my own community has practical things that they want to do. They're willing to raise the money. They're willing to buy the formula. They're willing to do whatever we need to do to get it shipped in. That's how I spend my time.
But you're not willing to cut off aid to Israel.
That to me is the most effective thing that I can do today.
This is a subtle question. Your staff is telling us you absolutely have to go. So we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming.
Senator.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, their staff pulled her out by the end of this process. Great stuff. Oh, anyway, let's take a look at Peter Beinart on Jon Stewart. This is yet another. This is like certainly an attitude change. Like you're experiencing it. You're seeing it. It's going on in mainstream media. Much credit to Much credit to Crystal Ball, by the way. She absolutely did a fantastic job. It's really interesting because like what she did there is the expectation from all mainstream reporters. Like they are supposed
in Gaza is.
I saw this, but I was real mad about how Peter was still trying to blame Hamas for the problem. Yes, as I said already, that is the one bridge that people cannot cross. Okay, they cannot get themselves to cross that boundary to say that there is. Okay, what the fuck? I effed again. We're back. That is the last boundary that people do not cross here, to understand why Palestinians resist, to understand why Hamas exists to begin with. Okay, my expectation from people, by the way, there is no, I can't fix the delay on this. There's no way to fix the delay here. There's nothing I can do. So you have to do it on your end. Here, spam 1 if you see if you see this. Yeah, there is no delay anyway. I'm broadcasting directly to Twitch, so there's nothing I can do. But it seems like there's no delay regardless. Okay. Okay. So as I was stating, the one last boundary that many people who are critics of Israel, has the mouth pain improved a little bit, but it's still pretty bad. But the last bridge that they cannot cross is an understanding of where Hamas and the rest of the Palestinian resistance is coming from. Why they have chosen to take up arms against Israel. For many people, they cannot let go of the notion that this is happening exclusively because of their unlimited hatred for Jews. Okay? That's it. They cannot see a world outside of that. This is a carefully concocted narrative that they always will lean on. Okay? It's inconsistent and it doesn't make any sense, but this interview is not for people like ourselves. Anyway, this interview is for your parents. I'm saying that, and I think other people should. Especially Jews should say that. Okay? It shouldn't be a Muslim person saying that. It should be a Jewish person saying that in a position of prominence. Some are. The reason why I say it's especially important for a Jewish person to say that is because, let's be real, no matter what I say, okay, no matter what I say, there are going to be people that go, your name is Hassan, shut the fuck up, you're biased. Okay, that's it. Yeah, it's not identical to Auschwitz. Of course it's not. But it shouldn't have to be. You can consider the ultimate goals of this to be identical to the Holocaust. Okay? Unfortunately, even Holocaust survivors aren't reputable voice on the matter to some Jews. It's just genocidal ideological call. Yeah, but that's not for the Jews. When I say, as a Jewish person, Peter Beinart has a lot of responsibility here, or Jon Stewart has a lot of responsibility here. I'm not talking about how they can convince other Jews. I don't care. I don't care what if you're Jewish and you grew up with like Jewish exceptionalism and Jewish supremacist attitudes, and you believe that Israel is the most moral nation on the planet, and 22 months in you just cannot comprehend how this is identical to like Nazi politics and the Nazi Holocaust at this point. I don't care about convincing you. The reality of the matter is, Jews are not monolithic. And also on top of that, there's not that many Jewish Zionists out there to begin with, especially in comparison to non-Jews in the United States of America. Okay? It's marginal. Who cares? Okay, you don't believe it. Sucks to suck. I say this when I say a Jewish person is supposed to be the person speaking to the rest of America on this issue. What I'm talking about is the Brad Lander strategy, okay? For many Americans who are not Jewish, when they hear a Jewish person say this shit, it has more impact. Okay? It has a lot more impact. It's just the truth. I'm saying this as a Muslim guy. I'm white, but clearly on this issue, people don't fucking perceive me in that way. That's it. Some people do. Some people are open-minded. There are many of you in this community, obviously. Almost all of you are have been convinced by someone like myself because of the fucking atrocities and how unavoidable they are. But if there are still people who are hanging on, they need to hear it from a Jewish guy to be like, nah, dude, this stuff is ridiculous.
That I think.
I get why chatters were mad about this interview. I think it's like, I mean, Peter Beinart's been at this game for a long ass time, man. You know where you should be at this point in time. Like, I know it's for the parents out there, but it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like, this is an extraordinarily dehumanizing rhetoric for everyone involved. It posits that American Jewish people are such selfish idiots that they can only oppose a genocide if they're also personally obliquely at risk of losing their favorite colonial project. Every time any of these people have space to actually talk about Palestinians or Gaza, all they talk about is how difficult it is for them to talk about it. It's such a colossal waste of time. Selfishness disguised as selflessness. I think this is going beyond playing it safe. Straight up. I think Jon Stewart should be more honest about his position. I've heard him say it. I've heard him say it on podcasts, on his own podcast. I've heard him say it talking to fucking, what's his face? Trevor Noah. He shouldn't do this like fake liberal Zionist squishy posture. Here, yeah, versus what Jon Stewart has said on podcasts. Let's take a look. This is exactly the video I was thinking of. Here.
By the way, we'll get into that later. The Jewish diaspora thing. I've been really considering this in my head. It's something we can talk about later.
Oh, we should definitely talk about it.
All right. You want to talk about it now? So I've been thinking about this. This is
something that I've been really annoyed by as well, and I constantly repeat it, where it's like Jewish diaspora, diaspora Jews. Motherfucker, they're not diaspora Jews. They're American Jews, okay? They're not like somehow rudderless and away from Israel, and the only Jews that are not in diaspora are the Jews in Israel. That's fucking bullshit, okay? Israel is more diaspora of a nation state than an American Jew is. An American Jew that has generationally lived in fucking Brooklyn for much longer than the goddamn Israeli state has existed is not a diaspora Jew. You're the fucking diaspora Jew living in Israel. What are you talking about? That shit's so goddamn annoying. This Hassan guy is a Nazi. Ironically enough, Nazis are the ones who consider Jews to be rootless cosmopolitans. I'm not saying that at all. It's the exact opposite of the Nazi argument. You fucking moron. Anyway, here's Jon Stewart's position.
Larger context of good Jew, bad Jew, right? So I'm clearly not religious. Okay.
I'm not sure you fully understand this. The idea of the Jewish diaspora goes way back before Zionism even existed. It's just about how often Jews have been persecuted in different countries. I know that. I understand that. Israel is using it literally to its advantage. Israel has taken over the anti-Semitic trope of Jews being rootless cosmopolitans that are simply fucking outsiders destroying countries from within and turned it into an argument in defense of Israel, saying, no, you're right. All Jews living all around the world are, as a matter of fact, rootless cosmopolitans that only can exist in Israel. That's the argument. That's what's so frustrating about it.
I sometimes admire people of faith, but I can't get there. Like, I know it's sort of like faking orgasms for me. Like, there's a certain, and I'll do the people will say, like, oh, bow your head in prayer. And I'll be like, And then we'll do a moment of silence. But in the silence, I'm really like, I wonder, is anybody, oh, look at that dude over there. I'm not really silent. So I don't get it, but
the concept of Jewish diaspora in the contemporary context is directly linked to nationalism and the nation state, not that persecution. Exactly. But it ties back to the historical persecution because every aspect of the national mythos of Israel as a nation state revolves around real persecution being directly tied back to why Jews have to love Israel and defend Israel unconditionally.
I am Jewish. Like, it just is. It is what it is. And it's born of that. That's my family. They were Jewish. Their parents were Jewish, whatever it was. But this idea somehow, and it ties.
This is the first time my opinion on Israel has diverged from yours. I think people use a similar logic to argue against the right of return from Palestinians. I'd rather have a one state, have a special obligation to both Jewish and Palestinian diasporas than neither. I don't care that there are Jews living in what is now known as Israel. I don't have an issue with this. What I have an issue with is how that existence has come about and how there is continued bloodshed. Okay? That continued bloodshed can only exist if there is a obvious reason that the Israeli government openly states they have, which is to design an ethno-state, a Jewish ethno-state, a Jewish supremacist ethno-state. And the only way that you can create a Jewish supremacist ethno-state is by carefully and deliberately ethnically cleansing everyone who is not Jewish from said Jewish ethno-state. That is how this reality has unfolded. That's what you've seen in the past 22 months. Like, I doubt a Moroccan Jew who lived there for, 800 years consider themselves in diaspora. Lamau, they're just Moroccan at that point. Exactly. It's like Iranian Jews. There are Jews in Iran. Are they diaspora Jews? American Jews. Are they diaspora Jews? They're not. They're American Jews. They're not living in diaspora. They're living in their country that they've lived in for generations. The fuck are we talking about?
Into Israel, that whatever you were born as, you won't be safe unless you are somehow ensconced in some version of an ancestral home, I think is a really dangerous precedent. I think the idea that we must go home, like, this is where I pointed, that's where I'm from. That's my home.
Right.
Like, I can triangulate where I'm at. This is where I feel most comfortable. This is where I'll always gravitationally come back to. I don't live in a diaspora. I've been to Israel. I was like, wow, that's impressive. I could see why they wrote the Bible here. It looks that's a lot of mountain. That's a lot of desert. But I reject the idea somehow that communities of people aren't whole unless they are able to repopulate some ancient version of where they believe is their source. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
And I don't know if that's applicable to the African diaspora, but for me, I think it's a dangerous precedent to tell people that they will never be safe.
Wow, this guy's really smart. Maybe Jon Stewart should have him on the show and interview him. Maybe one day he can just sit there and wear his Daily Show garb and then also record himself saying things like this on the other side. And then they can have a Jon Stewart versus Jon Stewart moment, Jon Stewart in a t-shirt on a podcast versus Jon Stewart on the Daily Show. Because it seems like there is a limitation to what Jon Stewart on the Daily Show is saying and doing versus Jon Stewart in his more private moments, I guess, or in his most honest moments.
Unless they are somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like, well, then the job is to make us all safe here because this is my home.
Yeah.
That's what I've been.
Chappelle said something to that effect, which I really appreciated. He said, we have to do a better job of making and I paraphrase him, our Jewish brothers and sisters feel so safe that they do not need to defend Israel regardless of what it does, because they feel like that's the only place where they will be safe.
That's right.
Which I think was
because
really
it does. It puts you in a moment where you say to yourself, I have to, because they're fighting for me.
Right.
But that can't be, because then they have to be forced to dehumanize someone else.
It's just so ridiculous, so cynical, so self-serving. And I think especially anti-Zionist Jews in this chat probably feel a type of way about this kind of argument, because it's like, what do you mean? If we don't feel scared, if we feel scared, then it justifies somehow supporting a fucking apartheid state. What does that mean? How is this a part of how is this an inseparable part of the Jewish identity? You know what I mean? What I think is so frustrating, at least for me as a Palestinian, is prioritizing the feelings of people that exist in the Western world by choice compared to those who have been killed and kept in exile, prevented from returning home, like my entire family and millions of other Palestinian refugees who have maintained refugee status for 76 years. Exactly. The idea of diaspora in the modern interpretation came about in a time of competing Jewish ideology called Doikite. Look up Doikite. It's a great counter to diasporism. This kind of take is built for the white libs who feel obligated to support this imagined Jewish perspective. Yeah, I've always been pretty firm on this statement. Like, I think anti-Semitism is a bigotry that is unacceptable, and I will always obviously combat it. Okay, on its own grounds, it is completely unacceptable. It's just hatred. It has historically led to a lot of violence. It's usually at the heart of a lot of fascist movements, the canary in the coal mine, all this stuff, right? Having said that, however, there's never been a moment where I was like, well, Jewish feelings actually matter more than the impact on the ground. That's not a thing for me. That's why whenever people go, oh, what if every Jew believes that Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish ethno-state? Then I guess if you're against it, you're anti-Semitic. I'm like, I don't care. And the reality of the matter is the American government doesn't care either one way or another. If every single Jew tomorrow decided that they were all anti-Zionist, the American government wouldn't move an inch from its unconditional support and loyalty to the state of Israel. Loyalty to the state of Israel does not come from Jews or defending Judaism or defending Jews. It comes from defending America's national interests, its foreign policy interests, okay? Its national security interests. Like, yeah, someone in the chat also made this point exactly. It's like saying, what if Muslims supported ISIS? Yeah, ISIS would still be bad, okay? It's ridiculous. The only reason why this kind of conversation could be productive is because there's still like hanger-ons. There's still people who need to hear this. There's still people who need to hear, older white American Jews saying like, oh, well, what Israel's doing is wrong and bad, But ultimately, it's just, I think someone like Peter should be taking a more aggressive stance at this point. Someone like Jon Stewart should be taking a more aggressive stance at this point. Someone like Bernie Sanders should be taking an incredibly, much more aggressive stance at this point from their position of prominence as American Jews, That's literally not true. Stalin was an ally to Israel in its inception. They did change their attitude shortly thereafter, but you're not even right about that.
Those conversations with fellow Jewish people, like, it's been, I feel like.
Also, what are we talking about, dude? Like, is it Jewish Bolshevism that created the USSR, or were they doing purges? Unless you're talking about like the Doctor's Plot or something. Okay? Like, yeah, Stalin was a fucking paranoid guy across the board. But to say that, like, the USSR was designed around anti-Semitic tendencies or something, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, what do you mean? Every single formative figurehead within the USSR, within the movement, either was literally Jewish or very clearly had a position against anti-Semitism that resembles mine and yours. It's like saying the USSR was like anti-women or some shit. It's like it couldn't be further from the truth. Okay? It's the exact opposite, as a matter of fact. All of the USSR's enemies, both ideologically and later enemies like the United States of America, were far behind the USSR in terms of women's rights. Okay? And I would say the same exact thing for anti-Semitism as well. What the fuck do you mean? Back then, the Nazis straight up were like, oh, socialism, the Jewish thing. What do you think Judeo-Bolshevism is? What do you think Judeo-Bolshevism is? The Nazis and every fascist movement saw socialism as a Jewish invention, chatters. What the fuck are you talking about? And the reason why they thought that is quite literally because many of the prominent figures in this movement were Jewish. It is a relatively new phenomena that, like, the international Jewish perspective is not so radical, so revolutionary, so left. Jewish history, Jewish tradition is incredibly leftist, incredibly socialist. It's like a post-Israel thing, and not even like entirely a post-Israel thing. Israel itself was designed, even though it was a fucking settler colonial project that that had ethnic cleansing at its inception. Who was doing the ethnic cleansing? Motherfuckers who said that they were secular socialists. Okay? Secular Jews who were socialist. Ben Gurion was literally a socialist. I mean, they weren't fully, obviously, clearly. But the idea that like left movements have anti-Semitism within them is so stupid. Like, do you understand? Do you hear what he's saying? The correct interpretation here is Palestinians have no option but to resist militarily when all of the other non-militant options are met with military resistance. There's no difference like armed resistance is unethical, is not appropriate. It's literally wrong. It's morally wrong. It's wrong from an international humanitarian law perspective. Armed resistance against a colonial occupation is not only legal, but it's also moral. The idea that like the only guys doing it are somehow doing it because they're taking advantage of the situation because they want to do it, they want to be violent, and the Palestinians actually would just want to do it in a non-violent way, but now these guys are actually taking advantage of the lack of response or the militant response from Israel to do the violent things that they want to do, makes it seem as though the formation of Hamas is simply built around this violent desire to kill Jews. And that is incorrect. Okay? That's it. That's incorrect. That's just simply untrue. Okay? And any kind of inference in that direction is not only furthering this false narrative, but it's also unimaginably unproductive. Yes, I hear him. He was/is correct. No, he is not correct. He is incorrect. He did not really say that. Peter Beinart is an incredibly well-read individual. Okay? He is an incredibly... Has Peter been on the stream? I would love to have him on the stream. And I want to have him on the stream, actually. I wonder if he would do it. But yeah. Here's Dylan Saba says, anyone who says it's morally wrong for Palestinians under occupation to engage in armed resistance is racist. Plain and simple. Honoring that premise is indulging racism. Yes. 100%. Like, what are we talking about, dude? We present people who have done this exact same thing as fucking heroes and champions. Would you grill him? No, I think we would have a very respectful back and forth. It would not be like grilling at all. I mean, look at Ukraine. Look at Ukraine. Look at Ukraine versus look at Palestinians, dude. When it's an Arab child or a young Arab teenager holding a weapon, they're fucking a military target that needs to be fucking lasered out of existence. When it's a Ukrainian child, they're like, look at how fucking awesome it is that Ukrainians are training their next of kin, their next generation to be able to fucking kill the Russian orcs. That's it. You agreed that his position is racist. Why do you want to bring him on to do some weepy both sides bullshit? There's nothing to learn from him. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you a week off here, okay? Because I live in the United States of America, and Peter Beinart is actually a influential person. That's the reason why I'm not on the Daily Show right now, and he is, okay? Please, shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ, dude. Shut up. Know your environment a little bit, okay? I know what I'm doing. You fucking clearly don't. So just shut the fuck up. Stop pissing me off, dude. God damn. People hear me say this and go, wow, dude, he's so cocky. He's so fucking cocky. It's like, yeah, I am, dude. I am. Shut the fuck up, okay? Stop trying to fucking present yourself as an ultra leftist who is holier than fucking Dow, okay? Oh, you have to be nice to Nazis? Is that, you think Peter Beinart is a Nazi? Shut the fuck up. We live in America, okay? You live in America. We are morally culpable. My goal is to bring as many Americans on board as possible, okay? You might have an issue with my tactics, but don't ever fucking misrepresent what I'm doing, okay? I don't see you taking up arms and going through the Rafah tunnel system into Gaza to defend Palestinians directly with your arms, okay? What you're doing is what I'm doing. You can LARP and posture as much as you want, but ultimately, you aren't either. Exactly. I'm not. Exactly. That's my point. Yes, I'm not. My goal is very deliberate. I say it openly all the time. The only way to stop Israel is by getting America to stop Israel. The only way to get America to stop Israel is outside of, doing literal fucking domestic terrorism or some shit, which I'm not endorsing, okay? I'm against that. The only way to do that is by creating so much fucking pressure so much pressure that it's a new calculation must come about out of it for the American State Department. Okay? My goal is to get as many people on board as possible on the fuck Israel train in the most productive ways possible. Okay? People are just not seeing what you see. There is information out there that if people saw would be a lot more angrier than you. What? No, I see everything. My point is to try to get as many people to also see what I'm seeing. What have I said? Since October 7, if mainstream media covered the situation like I've been covering it, you'd have Barbaras and Deborahs talking about how they want to fucking take up arms and join Hamas. Or chatters actually, no, it's not overwhelming amount of chatters. It's just one or two. They're just being fucking annoying. There is a tendency in leftist circles, including in mine, where someone has to literally be the foremost authority. Okay? They think that there's only one Highlander out there. There's only one Maoist third worldist out there. And they have to fucking chirp. And they have to be annoying. They have to chirp. They have to make it seem like there's no one else. And no one else is doing it like they're doing it. That's it. It's just fucking the same dumb performative bullshit that I've dealt with my entire fucking media career, okay? There were people like this when I had 35 people in here, and there are people like this still when there's 35,000 people in here. Okay? Eventually they'll become more comfortable in their worldview, and they won't have to constantly fucking present themselves as the most woke person on the planet. Okay? That's it. It's just like the zealotry of a convert, I think. As a commentator whose job relies on changing people's minds about dialectical materialism, socialism, anti-imperialism, I understand how fucking how zealous recent converts might be. So I'm usually nicer, but today I have a massive toothache as a consequence of my implant being taken out, so I have a much shorter fuse.
I remember Ariel Sharon withdrew from Gaza and Hamas took over. The Palestinians Authority to do.
Like, the last election was in 2006, and also not only that, but also, and this is going to be quite controversial of me to say, but I think after 22 months it's like appropriate to say, Hamas is far less radical than Israel ever could be, okay? Israel ever was and ever will be. Hamas is not like this scary fucking institution. It's not. And a lot of people, weirdly enough, refuse to fucking recognize when they say October 7 was Hamas. No, it wasn't. It was the entirety of the Palestinian resistance, okay? Just understand that. They were directed by the Al-Qassam, the Hamas militant wing. But ultimately, it was a joint military operation. The Al-Aqsa Flood was a joint military operation conducted by every facet of the Palestinian resistance. The PFLP, the DFLP, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hamas, the Al-Qassam brigades in Hamas, and even fucking Fatah. The idea that this is simply Hamas is because you want to fucking point to the most noticeable terrorist group. That's it. Basically, this Zana Saeed tweet. Israel killed more Palestinians in the week following October 7 than Hamas has killed Israelis in its entire existence. Grok, can you confirm the inaccuracy of this claim? The claim is accurate. Per the Gaza Health Ministry reports verified by UN sources, 2,000 Palestinians were killed in Gaza October 8th to 14th, 2023. Total Israelis killed by Hamas since 1987 is 1,700 per analyses from B'Tselem, OCHA, and other data compilations. What are you talking about? You're missing all the killing from the intifadas. There's been terror attack day and day out. Why aren't you including any of the terror attacks over the years? The 1,700 figure, this guy's an idiot, okay? Because Hamas and its like terror attacks in the second intifada were still marginal in comparison to whatever Israel does in any of its sieges on the Palestinian population. He can't comprehend that. The 1,700 figure includes all Hamas attributed killings in 1987, encompassing intifadas, suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and other terror incidents, per B'Tselem and OCHA data. It excludes acts by other groups. The first week, Gaza toll 2,000 exceeds that total. How many people died by terror attacks each year in Israel, he asks. I mean, he's obviously brain dead. Who the fuck would argue with the AI? Oh man. Well, this AI is not giving me the fake information that I thought it would give me. Will he actually turn around and reconsider his stances, or will he double down? Of course he will double down. Don't be ridiculous. I know that that's the answer. Is the KFC double down? Thoughts on the I've had it ladies? They're radicalizing my mom. They're amazing. I love them. My friend said Israel's killed more journalists than any recorded conflict in history combined. There's no way that's true. I think it is. In recorded conflict in history, I think so. I think it is true. I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but yeah, I think it's definitely more than Vietnam. Yeah, I'm not sure if people realize how abnormal it is for journalists to be killed in wars. More people have been killed in Gaza, 233, than in the Civil War, World War I, World War II, and the Korean War, and the Vietnam War, plus Cambodia and Laos, and the Yugoslav wars, and the Afghanistan war combined. Yeah, makes sense. Humanitarian aid workers, medics, journalists, like these are not enemy combatants. There are rules to war that have existed in perpetuity. There are literally rules to war since any of these professions have fucking existed. Okay? Like even civilians, like when you siege a city, even in the medieval times, you're not supposed to kill everyone in the city. Then you can't have workers. Like even out of self-interest. It's fucking nutty how much Israel has just destroyed everything. That is not true. They slaughtered entire cities. Exactly. When that happens, it is historically relevant. People still talk about Genghis Khan. Like I'm talking about an entirely separate time and place. Okay? Like you're like it's not comparable to modern day. It's not comparable to post-World War II existence. Do you see what I mean? And when people used to do that, we talk about it thousands of years in the future. Yeah, NBA was different back then. They was plumbers and math teachers. You're comparing the legacy. You're comparing conflict and war for a totally different time when motherfuckers were like, oh, dude, this guy believes something different. That's my slave now, okay? And even then, there were still certain principles that people abided by for pure interest, for pure self-interest. That's, as a matter of fact, what Israel is doing that is so crazy is that it's doing like colonial tactics in 2025 in broad daylight when we have access to the internet. Like there's never been an example of this throughout history. Like there was no... I didn't have the capacity to know what the fuck was going on inside of a gas chamber in Auschwitz, and then literally have a messaging campaign where I sent mail to someone that was stuck in one of these death camps. You know what I mean? Whereas now I literally interviewed two teenagers, one 14 and one 16 years old. They're stuck in Gaza right now. Okay, as Israel's wiping out every aspect of civil existence in the Gaza Strip. And everything that happens is being live streamed too. Like you're seeing it unfold in real time. It's crazy. Still could not get over he liked Andrew Tate sucks, man. No, I talked to him about that. He actually volunteered this. He was like, no, I don't really fuck with them like that. Also, who cares? He's literally a 16-year-old experiencing a genocide. 16-year-olds that are living in fucking Kentucky that love Andrew Tate a lot more than he does. Get the fuck out of here. You got motherfuckers in your neighborhood that aren't experiencing a genocide that have way, way more aggressive points of view. What does Kentucky have anything to do with it? I'm saying that we here in the United States of America have a different set of standards for content consumption and ideology than I would give to a person who is currently experiencing a fucking genocide. Okay? I don't know if that's like a super hot take or not. If you talk to a medieval lord or king, they would have exactly the same rationale as Netanyahu or Hitler. I guarantee it. They weren't more dumb back then. It was just a different mode of production that was not capable of producing this level of destruction. To your earlier point, this extract from the Holocaust Museum. During World War II, Nazis would allow Red Cross visits to concentration camps. Yes, this is Theresienstadt. This is the famous clean concentration camp, the clean ghetto. Okay? Theresienstadt is famous because that was the one that they hailed up and allowed like the Red Cross to go and fucking visit to say, oh, look, we're doing PR to show how fucking awesome it is, okay? It's actually dope. These ghettos are sick. You're fucking stupid for getting mad and thinking that we're killing Jews in the other ones. Nazis will allow Red Cross visits. First, the German Red Cross, and then the international one, okay? Big fuck up. Concentration camps and its president various children and yet their parents who had not yet been emaciated so the press could take photos and Julia HB1's of the world could mock the idea that they were being maltreated. A Jewish policeman in the Theresienstadt ghetto, this is from the Holocaust Museum, okay? A photograph of a Jewish policeman taken on an international Red Cross visit to the Theresienstadt ghetto. The SS deceived the delegation into believing that the ghetto was a self-administered Jewish settlement, Czechoslovakia, June 23rd, 1944. Elaborate measures were taken to disguise conditions of the ghetto and to portray an atmosphere of normalcy. The SS engaged the Council of Jewish Elders and the camp ghetto residents in a beautification program. Prisoners planted gardens, painted housing complexes, renovated barracks, and developed and practiced cultural programs for the entertainment of the visiting dignitaries to convince them that the senior settlement was real. The SS authorities intensified deportations of Jews from the ghetto to alleviate overcrowding. And as a part of the preparations of the camp ghetto, 7,503 people were deported to Auschwitz between May 16th and May 18th, 1944. On June 23rd, 1944, as planned, 2 delegates from the International Red Cross and 1 from the Danish Red Cross visited the ghetto, accompanied by Theresienstadt Commandant SS First, Lieutenant Karl Rahm, and 1 of his deputies. The facility had been cleaned up and rearranged as a model village. Hints that all was not well include a bruise under the eye of the mayor, in air quotes, of the ghetto. They understood it was fucked up. They understood it was fucked up, and they had to, do a little bit of massaging of the narrative. Make no mistake, if you think that the Nazis were like purely oblivious, or people around them were purely oblivious to the fucking evils of their actions, is not true. They knew, and they knew that they needed to propagandize. They fucking knew. The craziest situation here is that most people back then didn't know the full extent of the death and destruction in the Holocaust. Okay? They did not know. We found out only after the camps were liberated. There was evidence to the atrocities, intelligence. Like British intelligence had an idea, but some people didn't believe it, and some people turned a blind eye to it. The Germans knew. Germans living around the camps knew for sure. They turned a blind eye to it, But I'm talking about the rest of the planet, the rest of the globe. Like America, we have this weird attitude about World War II because of like all of the pro-America propaganda that came after World War II. That makes it seem as though like Americans knew that the concentration camps were taking place and that's why we like joined the battle or whatever. No, that's not the reason. That's not the reason at all. No, that wasn't the reason why America joined. Shouts out to FDR, by the way. I mean, he did his own concentration camps with the Japanese, but like he was on board with it. He was with it. And Pearl Harbor was like at least enough of a reason for the rest of America to get on board with this military action. But in the absence of Pearl Harbor, which was only triggered by FDR's push to deny oil and petrol to the Japanese for harming our colonial endeavors in the region, in the Pacific Campaign, this would not have, the Americans were not on board with getting involved in World War II at all. Didn't America have a pro-Nazi movement before Pearl Harbor? Yes, of course. Where do you the Madison Square Garden Nazi rally comes to mind? Anyway, yeah, the German-American Bund was making major pushes. Germany itself, just like Israel, Germany itself literally was trying to do remigration of German Americans back to the fatherland. And some American Germans actually did take that offer up because what Israel's ambitions are identical to the Nazi German ambitions, creating additional living space for the German race. Yeah, watch Band of Brothers. It's great. It describes everything top to bottom. It's so perfect. And it's also very entertaining to watch as well. It's a fucking great Great TV series. One of the best TV series of all time. Sometimes I have to, sometimes I have to balance it out though, because you become too pro-America all of a sudden, Yeah, here's the Nazi scene.
Morning, sir. Italian sure will be happy to see you guys. Where? At the farm, sir.
Top of the morning to you fellas. Enjoying the war?
Where are you from, son? Eugene, Oregon.
Gene? You gotta be kidding me. Popeye, did you hear this? I'm from Astoria.
Say.
Yeah. Orange Street. What gives? What are you doing in a Kraut uniform?
Volksdeutsche.
Come again?
My family answered the call. All true Aryans should return to the fatherland. Join up in 41.
You're shitting me, right?
Stop fraternizing with the enemy! Get over here!
What got you to Eugene?
I was born in Eugene.
Yep. Anyway, he gets a different fate. They lived in the same town in real life, but the writers toned it down because they thought that would be unbelievable. Yeah. What happens next will shock you. Yeah. The scene you can't see with the end of this scene is a very famous part of the... Just go watch it, okay? It's great. It's so fucking sick. High-key cringe behavior, not gonna lie. What, joining the fucking Volksdeutsche call to arms? And in 1941, going back to Nazi Germany to take up arms alongside the Nazis is cringe. I agree. Just like American Jews being like, oh, I gotta go to Israel, the fucking fatherland, and join the Israeli occupying force. Kind of cringe. Kind of fucking cringe. The only difference, of course, is that, the Nazi state was not entirely propped up by the American one, even though there was some financial ties, of course. And also, the atrocities were not unfolding in broad daylight, and the Americans took action against Nazi Germany alongside the Allied forces. And in this situation, we all know where the American government and its attitude is with Israel's damn near identical performance. Is it similar to how the U.S. citizens go join the IDF? It's identical to how the U.S. citizens go and join the IDF. What? Random Hasanabi name drop? Can't tell if it's a
Thank you so much for coming out.
Oh, I've seen this before. This is a fucking year. This is from a year ago, dude. All right, let's finish all of this statement. Now, do you understand? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And why I was like critical about this? Which is like, Hamas is within international law. Depends. Depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about like what they're doing currently in defense of Palestinians, yes, absolutely. 100%. October 7, on the other hand, like kidnapping is a no-no regardless, okay? Kidnapping is a no-no regardless. Taking prisoners of war is a little bit different. Israel's unique position as a belligerent occupier over the Gaza Strip as well makes this a unique position. It's not like black and white, okay? That is more complex. As far as like killing civilians, that's black and white, unacceptable. Okay, 100%. Like October 7, there are, and this is something that I admit to. This is something that Norm Finkelstein also agrees on. There are atrocities that took place on October 7 in the hands of the Palestinian Resistance Group. Now, of course, when you look at the dynamic of Israel in its 75-year occupation at that time, you have to match the actions of the Palestinian resistance to the violence that has unfolded historically against Palestinians. But if you are simply asking, were there acts of terror that took place on October 7? Absolutely, 100%. Were there atrocities that took place on October 7? Absolutely, 100%. It's true. It did. But one must recognize where this violence comes from. If your answer to this is, well, it's because they are Jew haters and they did this because they hate Jews, they want to kill Jews, you're fucking stupid, and you're not interested in any sort of reasonable solution to this whatsoever, any sort of manageable, reasonable, moral solution to this whatsoever. Okay? That's it. And there are historic examples you can point to with like atrocities committed by resistance groups historically in an effort to advance a liberatory cause against a much more powerful colonial occupier or much more powerful entity engaging in chattel slavery, for example. Nat Turner Rebellion comes to mind, right? And in that regard, when you match it up with the much larger atrocity, no one considers the Nat Turner Rebellion as like as a bad thing overall. Everyone understands that it was incredibly violent. Babies being murdered in their cribs, right? Like that is an incredibly violent act. But it's an afterthought in the long 400-year history of chattel slavery and colonial exploitation and mass rapes and mass atrocities that unfolded. It's not even a consideration in the minds of regular historians. They don't consider it to be like this dramatic setback or something that could ever hold up to the systematized form of violence that black people experienced under chattel slavery. And I think when the dust settles, it will be a similar assessment here as well. It's impossible to look at it right now and feel that way. I understand that. But think about your opinion of Palestinian liberation and the Palestinian emancipatory movement now as opposed to in the month of October in 2023. Think about how much your position has changed. If in such a short period of time your position can make a dramatic reversal, as many of yours has, I think when, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, depending on how history has unfolded, you will look at it very differently. I mean, even the very fact that this interview is taking place in mainstream media is yet another glaringly obvious example that the tide has shifted so dramatically. And I'm an advocate for people being more honest about it. Okay, I think people should be more honest about it when they talk about these sorts of things. When they talk about, because this is the other side of this story. I'm not demanding that people come out and be like, I'm wearing the fucking Al-Qassam, Al-Aqsa flood banner on my head. Okay, that's not my argument. That's not what I think people should be doing. I don't think you should be saying like, oh, I love Hamas. Hamas is the greatest. Okay, but you should be honest. You should be honest about the scale of atrocities that took place on October 7th as opposed to the, now 80-year occupation or 78-year occupation. I think that's important. It's important to do, especially because Peter Beinart is a very knowledgeable person on this. That's why, oh shit, little F happened or is happening currently. Hold on. Another. Okay, we're back. All right. Anyway, my point is, someone like Peter Beinart is supposed to be on the cutting edge of this kind of commentary, and therefore there's no room for being like Hamas is a evil group that is just simply operating on evil. You can say Hamas has committed atrocities, is true, or the Palestinian resistance has committed atrocities on October 7th, is true. There are atrocities that took place on October 7th. Okay, well that is true. It's still all but a mere blip in the 80-year occupation of Israel against the Palestinians.
Do exactly the opposite.
How, Peter? Palestinian sovereignty should be met up with, like the argument that I always don't like is like the argument that says Palestinian sovereignty is necessary for Israel's security. Okay? Like, if Israelis want security in the Jewish homeland, in the Jewish state, then they have to allow Palestinian sovereignty to exist is not the appropriate argument, is not the right argument. Like, this should not be met up against it's a false dichotomy, okay? Like, you shouldn't want Palestinians to have sovereignty because you're terrified that they're going to otherwise come and kill you, okay? You should want Palestinians to have sovereignty for Palestinian dignity, for Palestinian humanity on its own. It's still offering credence to this underlying premise in this conversation that Palestinians are not human and that they're just like they're going to just be angry all the time and then, do violent stuff if we just don't like give them a state, because who you're making that argument towards is the people that care about like Israeli security, Israeli safety, Israel being a Jewish state, a Jewish ethno state. And those motherfuckers don't care. They don't care. You're not going to be able to convince them logically. You just have to avoid talking to them altogether and apply pressure to more appropriate avenues. You know what I mean? Personal experience too, for the record. Like, so record rate of extermination is ongoing as an inevitable result. Is Bibi's last act. Imagine revenge on Palestinians is scarily horrific. At the end of the day, Hamas does not have the luxury or ability to be good in the Western sense. It was not an option afforded to them by the U.S. or Israel. So are they evil? No, they simply just are. Yeah. Also, I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of understand why people don't. The very same people that would agree with like the domestic politics of Hamas, ironically enough, are the very same people that will say, Hassan, you're an Islamist fundamentalist. You want to throw like gay people off roofs, which Hamas doesn't do, by the way. But regardless, like the people who are homophobic will, instead of going, I wonder why Hassan, who is an advocate for like LGBTQ rights and a litany of different things that I'm not an advocate of, why is he immediately not critical of like Hamas's domestic policies? Because they are utterly irrelevant when they are existing under an occupying force such as Israel. Same goes for Hezbollah. Same goes for every sort of militancy. Same goes for the Ansar Allah movement, right? It's just completely irrelevant in the hierarchy of need for Palestinian existence or for the existence of anyone in the region that unfortunately happens to be Israel's neighbor. They have not had the time to just like sit around and be like, let's have our own civil rights movement. And the irony, of course, is that there were plenty of secular, socialist, Christian, Muslim advocates that were Western facing within the history of Palestinian liberation, within the history of Palestinian resistance. Israel killed all of them. And they killed them all. They killed them all aggressively in the same exact way that they're killing everyone right now. That's it. It's utterly irrelevant to the conversation. Israel did not kill Hassan Nasrallah because of his opinions on gay people. Israel killed him because of his opinion on Israeli imperialism, his opinion on Israel playing a formative role in America's imperialism. That's it. So I think this is a ultimately productive conversation, and it's clearly getting a lot of play. But look, maybe one day networks will interview Palestinians about Gaza. Look at that. Like, that's the top comment, which is true. They should. If I can interview a Palestinian teenager that is literally stuck in the Gaza Strip, that is experiencing genocide right now, Jon Stewart should be able to do so as well. That's why, I don't know. I say all the time, like, if your parents, if New York Times had been covering Israel's actions with truth in mind, these numbers would be very different. If all of mainstream media was covering what Israel's doing in the way that I have, okay, with accuracy, with an interest in showcasing the Palestinian side on the virtue of Palestinian humanity, this attitude would be even worse, okay? And I think mainstream media knows that, which is precisely the reason why they do a worse job of covering Israeli atrocities than even the Israeli media does, okay? You barely talk about Israel, though. Are you joking? You're joking, right? That's a joke, I think. That's kind of funny that you're saying that. You're right. You're right, chatter. I famously don't. Lots of really good stuff here, but these numbers in particular should make people reevaluate how they think about Israel, Palestine, and democratic primaries. Also note how Palestinian rights resonate more with voters than criticize the Israeli government. I said this over and over again, even before these polls came out. I told you that Zohran did not win in spite of his Palestinian position. Zohran's position on Palestine helped him win. Anyway, two people involved in Michigan politics have said DSCC chair Gillibrand has privately encouraged donors to support Stevens. Party approval is at his lowest point in decades. And they think uncharismatic candidates bankrolled by insurance companies is going to fix it. Look at this.
Me and my family, we're Michiganders. Pop, it's very good. We've got some actually great pop companies in Michigan. If you've ever heard of Verner's, my dad likes to say that's the elixir to solve all.
I yield the gentlelady 30 additional seconds.
The gentlewoman is recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Cause of their servitude
sharing in the profession with those who have not come before you. Similar times of trying medical need, wars and flus past. You will see darkness, you will be pushed, and our society needs you to stand together at this time. Our country loves you. To our doctors and our nurses, I wear these latex
The gentlelady's time has
Clearly, they're panicking. She only brought in 1.4 million, 13% under 200 in the second quarter, despite all the insurance, corporate, and leadership packs. Abdul El Sayed, on the other hand, has 1.7 million. Mallory McMorrow, 2.1 million. I need to answer why this being on $10 million of NRSC ads isn't going to make her look absolutely unhinged among independent voters. Like, it's not happening. Yeah, also, yes, Zoran leads among Jewish voters, of course. Mamdani leads among Jewish voters, though there are clear dividing lines by age and denomination. Mamdani wins majority support among Reform, non-denominational, secular, non-practicing Jews, which is the overwhelming majority of Jews, by the way, especially under the age of 45. Cuomo wins a plurality of conservative Orthodox Jews, age 45 plus. I guess it's interesting to see. I guess it's interesting to see this this like mechanism of success happen in broad daylight in real time with the Zoran Mamdani victory. I find it interesting, especially because it's so close to my commentary on the matter, and we're there. Here is a too little too late moment from Kid Starver himself, and then we're going to get into the other side of the story. Of course, we're going to get into Epstein stuff as well.
Prime Minister, two issues here, obviously the aid and also the recognition of Palestine. First of all, on aid, what assurances did you receive from President Trump that he will use his influence with Prime Minister Netanyahu to allow the aid that you've talked about, the aid going in by trucks as well as by air? What assurance did you receive from him? He sounded as though when he talked about every ounce of food going in and you can't fake the pictures that we've seen on TV. Tell me about the reassurances you've heard, the promises, pledges from President Trump. And on the recognition issue, you do appear to have moved your position from as recently as last week, really, where you were talking about various other measures. I'm wondering what has influenced you into making what looks like a U-turn here on this issue? Is it pressure from the 250 or so MPs, most of whom are Labour? Is it pressure from inside your cabinet? We hear there are 7 cabinet ministers pressing you to push for recognising Palestine. Or is it President Macron, who of course lobbied you? He talked about it last Thursday about recognising the Palestine also at the UN General Assembly. And what difference?
I think the insidious part about what the UK and France is doing is that they're literally dangling Palestinian state recognition as this like threat against Israel when it's just the moral thing to do, and that should have done it a long ass fucking time ago. And they're only doing that because they recognize the depravity of the Israeli campaign so far that has turned into a genocide that they cannot avoid any longer. So the very fact that they just go, oh, well, we might actually recognize Palestine as a state as PR 22 months into a genocide is ridiculous. Like, you're saying that you're holding this as a talking point against the state of Israel. Just fucking do it, man. What are you waiting for? Not only that, but also the recognition of Palestine as a state is literally the bare minimum. What you should be doing is recognizing the evils of Israel and stop sending weapons to Israel. You should be stopping your spying missions that you do at the behest of the Israeli military objectives, which is a genocide. I am so fucking annoyed by this. Yeah. Starmer really said, if you don't scale back your genocide back to, let's say, normal acceptable apartheid, then we'll recognize your victim's right to exist. How about that? That's precisely what it is. And it's a ridiculous fucking take. Are you going to deny the proud British tradition of financially aiding fascists? It's true. True. This is a British tradition. You say, we started this process and we will see it through. As Lord Balfour declared, we will see it through. This is right. Who amongst us have not starved as a consequence of its settler colonial ambitions, who amongst us has not starved a few indigenous people. What Israel is doing is continuing along with the proud British tradition. Yes, a bit of noncery and a bit of apartheid. Very nice. Yeah, this is somehow even more offensive. Palestinian people either get a state or they get to not be mass bombed every day you get one. I will also say this. It's shocking that he's even worse than motherfucking Macron. Hold on. Okay. Because Macron didn't offer like additional conditions. He actually added the conditions into the recognition of Palestinian statehood, where he basically said it has to be a demilitarized state administered by the Palestinian Authority, which is a part of the Israeli security apparatus. So the very fact that Israel considers that to be a non-starter is also fucking ridiculous. But like, it's crazy that even Macron did not say, I will recognize Palestine unless you stop starving the Palestinians. He just said, I'm recognizing Palestine. I'm offering ridiculous conditions on recognition of the Palestinian state that render the point that I'm making irrelevant and stupid. Okay? But Keir Starmer, on the other hand, once again, outdoing Macron in his indecency, has decided by September we will recognize Palestine as a state unless you stop your starvation. If you do stop your starvation and bombing campaign and your genocide, then we won't recognize Palestine as a state. What are you doing? What are you saying? It's crazy.
Do you think actually recognizing Palestine will actually make in practical terms?
Thank you for those questions. Firstly, on the question of aid, I won't go into the discussions I had with President Trump yesterday. We had a long session in private, and we discussed the situation in Gaza, and you heard the
as abhorrent as this is, it seems like an unprecedented move towards an otherwise untouchable Israel. Yes, on the one hand, I think this is too little too late. What the fuck are they doing? I can't believe they're still offering like weird conditions to it. On the other hand, even the very threat of France or the UK saying that they'll offer state recognition to Palestine is unprecedented, because that's how much clout and institutional control Israel gets to have. Okay, that's how much Israel is seen as like a non-starter.
Way the president then put it in the press conference that we held afterwards, and I think you could see for yourself his concern about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, as is my concern, because we've been saying for some considerable time now we need to get more aid in.
Yeah. It's kind of incredible that Keir Starmer managed to find a policy on this that would please literally nobody. UK to recognize State of Palestine in September unless Israel holds a ceasefire. Israel will be enraged and call him an anti-Semite. Palestinians will find it disgusting to make recognizing their rights a kind of bargaining chip. And Starmer will pat himself on the back and say, well, if everyone's mad at you, you must be doing something right. One must not forget that Keir Starmer's rise to power within the Labour Party was directly related to the Israel lobby. For the record, the whole like rat fucking campaign of Jeremy Corbyn came from the Starmer aligned coalition within the Labour Party that used Israel and anti-Semitism and cynical weaponizations of allegations of anti-Semitism, and sometimes even creation of actual anti-Semitic incidents within the Labour Party, specifically so they could fucking destroy Jeremy Corbyn, because they were, one, worried about Jeremy Corbyn's position on Israel, which is the morally correct position, as history has vindicated him, but also because he was a socialist and this harmed, potentially, the interests of capital. So it was a win-win in that regard. Bro put on CNN? Why? What's on CNN? I don't know why I got one guy, but fuck it. Fuck it, we ball. Oh, Trump, Epstein stole young woman at Mar-a-Lago. I know, I'm going to get to that in a second. Don't worry. We're going to cover that in a second. Let's finish this
at
first.
Volume and at speed, and the situation now is absolutely catastrophic, which is why I've taken this decision today. In relation to the two-state solution and the recognition of Palestine, this has been long-standing Labour Party policy. It was in our manifesto. We talked about the right of the Palestinians to recognition, and we've always said that would be part of the process, and that it would be an important part of the point that we thought it would have maximum impact. It's driven today by two things. Firstly, the context in the intolerable situation in Gaza, which is getting worse by the day. but also because of the concern that the very possibility of a two-state solution is reducing, and therefore it is very important to be seen in that context as a very important contribution to what I hope will be an alleviation of the situation on the ground, because I'm acutely aware that what needs to happen urgently is that aid into Gaza at speed and at volume, and that ceasefire that can open the way for a political process. So this is a decision taken by this government in the context of today and after a meeting with my cabinet just earlier this afternoon. On the question of the difference it will make, the reason we have announced this in the way we have in relation to the General Assembly in September is precisely because I want to ensure that this plays a part in changing the conditions on the ground and making sure that that aid gets in, making.
Then you could have said you're going to recognize the state of Palestine. And on top of that, if Israel doesn't commit to a ceasefire and commit to aid going in to the Gaza Strip, then you will stop giving them weapons. And also, you should stop giving them weapons anyway. Then you will stop doing any sort of economic trade with the state of Israel. Yeah, breaking. End of mission for British spy flights over Gaza for Israel. Shadow R1, which has been flying daily over Gaza, is returning from RAF Akrotiri on Cyprus to RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire tonight. I have information showing this marks the end of the UK Spy for Israel program. 22 months, dude. 22 months. The Royal Air Force spied on Palestinians at the behest of Israel that played a formative role in Israel's genocidal campaign. Turkey W or Erdogan bullshit. Breaking. Turkey has officially endorsed the Hague Group's Bogota Declaration, becoming the first country to join since the July summit, 13th country overall. Ankara pledged to suspend arms exports to Israel, block Israeli weapons transit via airspace and ports, review public contracts tied to Israeli firms, support ICC arrest warrants in universal jurisdiction cases. Deputy Foreign Minister Nuh Yilmaz said Israel is inventing genocide in the 21st century and call for urgent humanitarian access and reconstruction. I mean, yeah, Turkey has a lot of power here to actually stop Israel if it wanted to, if it truly was a real one. They could just shut off all energy to Israel. They could literally be like, no more energy, sorry. Netanyahu linked Israeli daily Israel Hayom calls for a plan to initiate war with Turkey over northern Cyprus. This is one of the many possible flashpoints for this looming conflict. Ankara's perspective, it'd be better to wait for U.S. inability/unwillingness to continue patronizing Israeli aggression. Oh, Israel Hayom. Northern Cyprus is also an Israeli problem. Oh my God, dude. That's awesome. Let's go. Let's fucking go, dude. Hell yeah. Hell yes. I'm on board with this. Israel, do it. Liberate Cyprus, please. Dude, listen. Some might say Cyprus was also a part of the greater Israeli project. You can't have Cyprus without northern Cyprus, which is occupied by the Turkish government and the Turkish military. You got to do it. Sorry. Oh, man. It's just, I found another page in the Bible that said this also belongs to Israel. Sucks to suck, guys. Yeah. Don't you remember in the book of Jonah where God promised Jonah the island he swam to on the whale? Yeah. Yeah. Hamas is there, I heard. Bro, my dad was saying that he saw in Xiaohongshu that Israel wants to attack Turkey. I thought it was fake news. I mean, it's kind of fake news, yes. It's just like posturing. Look, all I'm saying is Israel has a right to defend itself. And by that, I mean Israel has a right to all of Cyprus, okay? It's not Greek. It's not Turkey. It's Israeli, okay? That's right. You thought this was a conflict between Turkey and its claims and the Turkish citizens that live in northern Cyprus versus like the Greek citizens of Greek Cypriot background living in the rest of Cyprus. No, it was actually, they were all Israeli. And by that, I mean everyone there has to leave immediately, evacuate immediately, because it has to be Israel. How many countries can Israel go to war at once? I mean, I don't know, however many it pleases. And why are you asking that question? Are you Hamas? Are you anti-Semitic? What's happening? Hello, I am Israeli Cypriot, and this is my Cyprus. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes total sense to me. Yeah. Where else can gay Israelis get married if not Cyprus? Very unpolitical take. Exactly. I'm apolitical. Israel has a right to occupy and take over Cyprus. And if you think that that's not the case, then you are unimaginably anti-Semitic. It's a peak anti-Semitism. They need to take Cyprus now. Okay.
Ensure that there is hope of a two-state solution for the future, and therefore...
Yeah. Turns out Cyprus was just another fight between good and evil. Good being Israel, of course. Never evil.
I've always been interested in what is going to make a material difference. How can we work with our allies most effectively? And that's why this comes as a part of a peace plan that we've been working on for some considerable time, an 8-part plan, which I've already spoken to Germany and France about, and many other countries. So this should be in the context of answering the question, yes, how do you get humanitarian aid in at speed and at volume, but also what happens the day after a much-needed ceasefire so that we can get to a long-term peaceful outcome. And I think that that is the context in which you should see the decision that I've made today.
Yes, yes. Politically expedient. And breaking news, guys, you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked at what Benjamin Netanyahu's response is to Keir Starmer saying this like wishy-washy, too little, too late bullshit. Are you ready? Are you ready? It's going to be so different than everything he said so far. Let's take a look.
Breaking news. We've had a response from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to the UK's decision earlier today to recognise the state of Palestine in September, unless Israel takes what Sir Keir Starmer has called substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister has put this on social media. Starmer rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow. Appeasement towards jihadist terror.
Oh, he's Hamas. God, dude, why didn't I think of that? That's brilliant. That's such a good counter, man. That is so unexpected. That's so unexpected. I did not see that coming. Benjamin Netanyahu is a man of few words. And by that, I mean, he just says one word. It's just Hamas. Wife not putting out, you are Hamas. You are a Hamas terrorist. You must be stopped. You are appeasing the jihadist terrorists by not putting out tonight. That's it. He's got one fucking speed, baby. One speed. You are doing Hamas jihadist terror.
Terrorists always fails. It will fail you too. It will not happen. That the response there from the Prime Minister of Israel to the UK's decision to recognise Palestine as a state in September, unless Israel takes what the Prime Minister has called, the Prime Minister of the UK.
Hello. Hi, Mr. President. Can we ask about that? Can we ask about that, please, on Gaza? Sir Keir Starmer.
Oh, also, this lame ass said the same thing.
Has just announced the UK will recognise Palestinian sovereignty in September if Israel does not commit to a ceasefire, ease the suffering in Gaza, and commit to a long-term solution that would deliver the two-state solution in the Middle East. Did you know that was coming? What is your response?
We never discussed it, surprisingly. It was never really discussed. Maybe a little bit at the news conference, but he was sort of discussing it with you. We never did discuss it. And we have no view on that. We're going to get a lot of money to the area so they can get some food. He's going to also. I think the European Union is going to put up money too for food. And hopefully it's going to be properly distributed. And it will be. I think it will be. We have some pretty good response on people for the distribution of the food. We want to take it one thing at a time. They need food, and they need people to be able to get them the food.
But to follow up on that, I mean, is there any use at all in pressuring Israel now to come to some sort of longer-term solution, or at least
you could make the case that you're rewarding people? That you're rewarding.
You could make the case that you're rewarding Hamas by letting Palestinian children eat food. You are rewarding Hamas.
Hamas, if you do that.
Hamas loves when Palestinians eat food, and that's an evil thing that they like. We can't reward it. We can't reward the children with baby formula. Hamas loves baby formula. They're the evil ones, of course. Remember, The evil ones in this conflict are the ones who want the babies to get baby formula. And the good guys, the greatest guys, are the ones stopping babies from getting baby formula.
And I don't think they should be rewarded. So I'm not in that camp, to be honest. We'll let you know where we are in, but I am not in that camp.
Mr. President,
because if you do that, you really are rewarding Hamas. And I'm not about to do that.
Mr. President.
Yeah, he don't want to reward Hamas.
Things about it. So we'll see what happens.
On Gaza, last week you were rather dismissive of President Macron when he recognised the Palestinian state. Today you're saying you don't really...
That's his opinion. You know, he can have an opinion. It doesn't mean I have to agree. Emmanuel's a good man. He works hard. Got a lot to say about everything.
But now you're saying you're not taking a view on Keir Starmer's announcement. Does that mean your view is a wrong
I guess
thing?
Starmer is doing the same as Macron, right? He's basically, is he saying the same thing? I think so. Essentially, they're saying the same thing. And that's okay. But, you know, it doesn't mean I have to agree.
Mr. President, you mentioned setting up food centers. When can we expect to see
Very
those
soon.
food centers?
Yeah, very soon. So we sent $60 million. That's a lot of money for food, a lot of money. That can take care of people for a long time. And we want to make sure it's being spent properly. And part of the spending is the distribution. You know, if you know, a lot of money's been sent by other countries, but nothing compared to us. But a lot of things have been stolen. They send money, they send food, and Hamas steals it. So it's a tricky little game. But
the good guys are Israel here. The bad guys are Hamas. Just remember that. Yeah, the good guys are the Israeli Foreign Ministry undertaking what is sure to be a bulletproof PR strategy, publicizing photos of starving Palestinians in Gaza and saying because they have illnesses, Israel's massive restrictions on aid somehow have nothing to do with their condition. A real man, a fake claim. 41-year-old Mohammed al-Hassana didn't die of starvation. He suffered from untreated diabetes and died from complications of severe hypercatabolism. But this image is now being used to smear Israel. Oh my God, they're literally doing it. A real child, a fake story. 11-month-old Sela Barbach isn't starving. He suffers from a pre-existing chronic gastrointestinal illness unrelated to the war. But global media uses photo to push a false narrative. Oh my God. They're literally saying we're starving and denying aid to literally fucking babies with illnesses. I don't understand why they think this is a good way to defend Israel. It's so crazy. This works on some people, by the way. Megaphonics. I hate to break it to you. This isn't working on them. They don't care. You understand? Like, if this quote unquote works on you, then you're not looking for a reason for this to work anyway. Like, your parents weren't in the margins is what I'm saying. Your parents are already unconditionally and fully on Israel's side. This doesn't work on people in the margins who are like, I saw a story about a starving child, but now Israel's saying that this starving child also had other illnesses. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's not going to work on them. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is basically like saying they didn't die because they were in Auschwitz. They died because they got typhus. You really have become Hitler's children, says Sol Khan. This is not even effective propaganda, is my point. It's ineffective propaganda. Meanwhile, here's what Israel's take is. Israel is banning journalists from flying over Gaza with airdrop operations from filming anything from above after blocking them for 22 months from entering Gaza on the ground. Israel threatened to halt all airdrops if any journalists film from the flight's windows.
So the Jordanians have passed on a message from the Israelis. The Israelis don't want us to film out of the window at the devastation inside Gaza. But I've spent 10 minutes looking at it with my own eyes. And I can tell you that communities in the north of Gaza that I knew well, very vibrant, tens of thousands of people living hard lives, but actually with a remarkable human spirit, are flat. There's nothing left of them. Now, if you've been watching satellite pictures, it won't come as any surprise, but seeing it is really something. Israel will not allow...
This is why Israel can never do a ceasefire. Do you understand? Israel cannot do a ceasefire because that guy is going to go into Gaza. Okay? When that guy goes into Gaza, he's going to cover Gaza. And then your parents are going to inevitably come to that conclusion that this is a genocide as well. There is no hiding this truth at that point. We all are aware of what's going on. The real fear here is your parents will be aware of what's going on. Okay? You understand? That's a major part of the reason why this ceasefire will never take place, or they don't want the ceasefire to actually take place, because once it does, and they realize that this is the greatest evil of all time, okay, equivalent to what the Nazis did, then they're gonna work to disband it. They're gonna advocate to disband it. It's indefensible. Even your racist parents who hate Palestinians, who think they're all fucking barbaric monsters, are going to literally come to that conclusion and be like, okay, we were wrong.
Reporters like myself to enter Gaza to report the story. They don't want us to see it, to film it anyway, from above either. So the Jordanians have passed on a message.
Mega is in pro-Israel circles. My parents would believe this BS too, but it's not like it's not the majority. Stop assuming insane Jewish races are the majority of Americans. No, I know. That's why I said that's just like a you thing. No, I know. I would say that from my own personal involvement in like pro-Israel Jewish communities, I literally live in a pro-Israel Jewish community. I would say that it's a lot of the pro-Israel Jews that were, constantly talking about October 7 have moved away from talking about Israel at all. And there's like a sense of shame, at least, where they're just like, maybe we shouldn't say anything. Like even the most like pro-Israel Jews, for the most part, don't say too much about the current conditions. And I think that for like we see and hear like some of the most outspoken Zionists, like ultra Zionists out there, and assume that like the rest of the country is like that. It's not reflective of the rest of the country. I think most people, even people who want to maintain a pro-Israel position, are at least like quiet because they know how fucking untenable and indefensible the situation is. It's not shame, it's muted resentment. Yeah, that's a better way to put it, for sure. We have appended an editor's note to a story about Mohammed Zakaria al-Mutawak, a child in Gaza who was diagnosed with severe malnutrition. After publication, Times learned that he also had a pre-existing health problem. Read more below. Yeah, Israel is so fucking shameless that they get these fucking publications that already do unlimited propaganda for Israel to like concede on stuff like this. Remember when I went on BBC World right after the Al-Shifa hospital, Al-Ahli hospital, the bombing of Al-Ahli hospital, and BBC had just apologized for it. And I straight up told BBC World, you should have never apologized for that. What are you, crazy? Your initial assessment is correct. And Israel has refused to give any information that actually says your initial assessment that it was Israel's bombing campaign that did this. Israel has not disproven that at all. Placing this giant editor's note after relentless propaganda of the Israeli government to plant in their reader's mind against the work of its own journalists the idea that the Israeli government could be right and the famine in Gaza isn't as bad as everyone is saying it is. Do you agree that maybe the average Israeli is not aware about the death and destruction because of media and propaganda? Maybe. But it doesn't matter. The average Israeli's position on this is so irrelevant. The average American's position, I would say, is more relevant than the average Israeli's position on this. Because without America's say-so, without America's go-ahead, there is no Israeli genocide. And I don't think that the average Israeli is oblivious to what goes on in Gaza. I think that they see it. I think that they like it. And I think that they want it to continue for the most part. I think a lot of people don't understand the proximity to Gaza in general. It's like 50 miles down the road, you know, to like one of the most populated areas in Israel. It's like 50 miles away. It's not that far. They can see it.
We're going to make sure we have some very good people. They're going to be watching it.
Who is going to be running those food centers for you, and what kind of oversight
Well,
can
we're going to be
expect?
dealing with Israel, and we think they can do a good job of it.
And actually, nothing is mostly being said or talked about.
So for the past 22 months, we have witnessed...
Yeah, Israeli NGOs are now coming out and saying it's a genocide too. Not that it fucking matters. Like I said, it shouldn't be up to like an Israeli NGO to make this assessment, but even Israeli NGOs are making this assessment.
Unprecedented levels of civilian killings, of deliberate starvation, forced mass displacement, and the total destruction of most infrastructure necessary for human and social existence. The people of Gaza have been displaced, bombed, and starved, left completely stripped of their humanity and rights. The first part of our report described exactly that. The practices through which the genocide is being carried out and their devastating consequences on the ground. The second part of the report in the second part of the report, we describe the conditions that made it possible for the Israeli regime to become a regime that commits genocide.
The president also made headlines.
All right, let's talk about Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell asked Supreme Court to overturn her conviction. Wait, what is this? Holy hell. Senator Cory Booker just detonated the Senate floor, screaming match, finger pointing, full-on political exorcism. He torched his own party for being weak, said they might deserve to lose, and warned Democrats, if you're looking the other way from Trump's actions, that's complicity with an authoritarian leader. Then came the haymaker. Come at me. You'll have to take it up with me and God. Booker says Dems are sleepwalking into fascism while pretending bipartisanship is still real.
The knee to this president.
I can't do this. It is going to make me go fucking ballistic. I cannot. I have, oh my God, 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 oh my God. This man literally had Benjamin Netanyahu's hands directly up his asshole, okay? Like a fucking flesh puppet only a couple weeks ago. Suck my dick, Cory Booker. Fuck you. Booker is still laying into Democrats on the floor, practically yelling. The text I'm getting from Dems about this, oh boy, people are pissed at Booker. Fuck this guy. Fuck Cory Booker.
Damn, this guy's good.